Hello, everybody. Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to F1 Creator Series, to the latest round here at Imola. And, all the drivers have been looking forward to this one. A little bit of Mystery Grand Prix, just to bring a little bit of a spice. But that's not all. We've got a spicy commentary team and a spicy presenting team for you here this evening. I am Daniel Gilligan. I will be your presenter and slightly chaotic driver, let's be honest. It's not going to go well from my perspective. It will go well, though, for Joe Black, who is here with us now. Joe, how are you doing?
Well, I'm very good. I'm hoping it's going to go well from both perspectives because, of course, you will be. It'll be completely dramatic if you're able to do something very well today. And, I'd hope that you're going to nail at least one of them, whether it's the broadcasting or whether it's the commentary.
I like to think it's a jack of all trades, master of maybe one or two outside of this room. But yeah, that's about it, really. To give a bit of context, I have had about an hour's practice. My first ever laps on this game have come today. So this should all go perfectly well. I don't see any problems whatsoever. But yes, Joe, of course, we are headed into this one. It is, latest, greatest round in Creator Series, but without an awful lot of the drivers at the front that we'd be used to seeing.
Yeah, of course, and it means that there's so many more drivers that can stake their claim to go right at the very top, and it allows a few that are a little bit further back to get closer in terms of the championship, and those that are even further back, those who are making their debuts this evening, for example you, and you're not the only one, just to stake their claim to make a regular spot on this grid. I fear that, Daniel, this may be amongst your last appearances, but I hope I'm proven wrong.
Well, I mean, we had one appearance once before in F1 24. This is certainly my debut for F1 25. But let's not forget the glorious march to 16th and 0 points in Australia on last year's game. But anyway, it's fine. Nothing to worry about at all. What we do have, though, in addition to a so-so driver and great presenting team, is you have a fantastic commentary team, all in the wings, waiting to be introduced. And here they are now. It is, of course, the legend himself, Tom TK Knight, and the also legend Tom TW Wilkinson. That's not at all what Tom Wilkinson is actually called, but there we go. Hello, chaps. How are we doing?
Doing very, very well. Excited for what is going to come here this afternoon. Some big names missing as well. I think that's worth pointing out. And obviously with yourself stepping in, Ben and Alex Gillen missing for some important wedding or something. If you want to talk about statistics, the hair has about 90%, the grid has about 90% more hair this week.
That's an interesting statistic. I'm glad you said it and not me. But there we go. TK has given us hair stats and facts. Tom, what can you provide us?
Nothing quite as interesting as that. I mean, we're missing the top three in the championship. No Gillen, like you said, he's doing some kind of marital thing. We don't need to get too far into that. No GB, no Razinchai. Opportunity perhaps for Kareem to try and make a fist of it in the final 3 rounds, 45 points away from Gillen. So maybe something for the reigning champion to try and cling on to. Watch out for some of the reserves, though. We might be a little bit biased in the commentary box and in presenter corner, but Clipbook Carl, from Clipbook to the commentary box to the grid at Imola, he is absolutely rapid. If you've seen the time trial leaderboards, he is quite often inside the top 200 on there, so don't be surprised if he qualifies inside the top 5 at least.
Yes, I will be surprised if I still retain the title as fastest commentator after this race. I will be completely honest with you. But here we are. TK is now making all sorts of strange faces. I was always, obviously, I was always fun. Anyway, TK, in terms of this one, you've, of course, commentated a lot of CS races in your time. How does tonight's variability, all the reserves, everything else, how is that maybe adding just that little bit extra spice in your mind ahead of us getting in here?
I think the way you've got to look at it is you take the normal recipe that you have for a Creator Series weekend, where you've got 19, 20 drivers that pretty much regularly turn up. You take that recipe and you throw it out the window because you have absolutely no idea what's going to happen when we have 9 reservists in for various drivers amongst the grid. A lot of unknowns that are going to happen, a lot of potential that could be seen, as Tom alluded to earlier. Clipbook Carl is absolutely rapid. You have a mixed history, I think, in racing the F1 Creator Series and the F2 Creator Series as well. But there's a lot of unknowns that are probably going to happen tonight.
There might be a fair few. Of course, also with us in spirit, he's not dead, but just he's not here tonight. He's probably got a curry or something like that. It's, of course, the wonderful George Morgan behind me here. I can just stroke his face just like this. It's fantastic. I feel in a privileged position here to be sat in his lap, waiting to go racing here tonight. But if you were George Morgan, Tom Wilkinson, you're not, of course, and you're all the better for it. There's going to only be one Welshman in this commentary box. That's the law. That's not anything else to do with Creator Series. But in terms of what you may be thinking going into this one, give us all your thoughts and feelings about this varied, mixed-up grid today.
My thoughts, I firstly thought you were going to ask if you were in George Morgan's lap, and I was going to have to completely come up with a different answer to what I was expecting. I can sum this up, though, with one sentence. The last time that we had basically half the normal grid not attending, it was actually Imola back in Season 5, and Hayden Gullis finished second.
I mean, we'll see. Let's see what ends up happening tonight. Maybe we will end up having a similar situation popping up. Who knows? Hayden Gullis is, of course, racing today. You've got some of the big names still here that haven't gone to the wedding. People like Fabio, people like Jake, various others across the grid as well. Could Ferrari get some silverware in front of the Tifosi? We shall see. But the thing you'll be seeing next is not, in fact, qualifying, but how to do a lap around here properly. It's going to be the SRS Hot Lap next. Over to you.
We're going to Imola for round 10 of season 10. Here's a hot lap using a setup courtesy of Sim Racing Setups. Going down the main straight now, careful of the little kink on the right as an invalidation will happen quicker than your Nana Bingo nights. On the approach to turn 2, your braking point sits around the 60 metre mark. While mounting the curve, whip it left and mount the next 2 curbs as much as possible. The track limits here saw a massive overhaul from last year's game and are a lot more lenient now. Middle sector now, turn in as late as you can so you don't bottom out at the inside curb. Mount the right hand curb as much as possible so you can set up the corner exit smoothly. Uphill braking just after the 50 metres, down to 3rd. On the exit, be careful of the snap of oversteer and also be careful on the throttle on the exit as that curb is slippy. Heading up to the fast left hander and you've really got to send it here. Right hand kink, then dab the brake, downshift to 6. Send it in like your nan's got a stopwatch and power all the way through. Downhill to Aqua Minerale. We keep it planted on the first right. Brake in a straight line, shift down to 4th and get the torque all the way up the hill out of this iconic part of Imola. Chicane now, 2 wheels on the outside curbing, brake at 45, down to 3rd gear. Abuse the track limits like it insulted your nan. Straighten up and get on full throttle as soon as you can. Setting up that exit is key for positioning yourself at the front of the pack come race day. Downhill to one of the trickiest braking zones on the track. Brake at 55 metres, mount the inside curbing, pull 3rd gear and exit, hold for a sec, turn in and over the inside curb zone. Focus on the exit and up to the finish line. That's a lap of Imola, courtesy of Sim Racing Setups and me, Adam Sanderson.
So there we are then, everybody. That was a lap around Imola. The wonderful, beautiful ribbon of Italian tarmac that we have to race on here today. Last time out, though, it was Italian tarmac, but it was never meant to be until that very last second. What was the Hungarian Grand Prix in real life ended up becoming Monza, and Alex Gillen ended up winning by 0.3 of a second ahead of GB68. You can see right there. Late race safety car, of course, that provided all of that drama. Joe, can you give us some of your thoughts following that tumultuous race? And depending on who you were in the grid, maybe not the most exciting race in Monza.
Well, I think it's always dramatic, and a Monza race is always dramatic, especially when you're thrown into it in the last minute, and a late race safety car is always going to cause a little bit of drama, which is why, of course, anything under a second between the top 2 is always an incredible race, and that's exactly what we got last time at Alex Gillen taking the win, and extending his championship. Extending his championship points, and he'll be happy with that one. This week, I'm sure he'll be watching on, but unfortunately not racing today. He's busy with other commitments. Maybe he's on holiday with George Morgan or something like that. I'm not sure, but I think we're set just like last time for a very, very good race in Italy.
Absolutely. I would 100% agree with you. But for the time being, then, we have now got cars out there on the virtual racetrack. I should know, I'm sat in the garage right now. And with all that being said, I think it's high time that we throw ourselves back over to your beautiful commentators, Tom Knight and Tom Wilkinson.
Well, very kind as always, Dan, and welcome, folks, to what is going to be our battleground for this evening's endeavours. Welcome to Imola. There is a full proper name, and I'm not going to bore you with going through the complete title, as all of our creators did see earlier. Short qualifying to come, so 18 minutes on the timekeeper's watch, and all of our drivers will have as many attempts as they could possibly get to try and set the fastest lap of the session. Any guesses of which way that pole position will go, I'll leave it up to you in the live chat watching along at home. But Tom, just whilst we get the intermediate lap started, obviously we've got a lot of drivers missing here today. Any early predictions for who could take pole position?
I spoke about Carl earlier. We don't obviously know how he'll perform on this kind of stage in the Creator Series. His other league races typically go fairly well there, so I expect Carl to be up there. Safso got a really good record around this circuit. This is the venue where he took his most recent race victory, albeit back in Season 2, so it was about 700 days ago in the history of the Creator Series. But he does have a win here. Cream 7T should also be very strong, as you would imagine. And MSkyZ returning, hasn't quite shown the pace in the last couple of games as he did on F122 and F123. Obviously, he's a reserve at the moment, hasn't been a full-time driver for a number of seasons, but we know the pace is always there when it comes to Skysy. With no Ben on the road as well, he'll be delighted about that. First of all, it gives him a potential opportunity to try and fight right at the sharp end.
Absolutely. The last time those two came together, I think all the way back to Vegas when we had that almighty showdown, Karim winning the championship. And we do see Safso here making his way down to the two Ravatsas to start off the first of the laps of this short qualifying session. Ignore what it says at the top left-hand side of your screen as always. We are just going for a one-shot short qualifying, so we're not going Q1, Q2, Q3. Once that timer hits 0, we will have the fastest of the drivers starting from the front of the grid. No wild cards this week, so just to keep you all informed at home. But Sato makes his way to start off the first of the laps in towards Tamburello to kick off the first of the chicanes that come a cropper here in Imola.
And look at it, already struggling for grip on these intermediate tyres. If you are new, first of all, where have you been? Very poor of yourself, taking 10 seasons to jump along with the Creator Series. But inside the first 6 minutes, a point is awarded for the driver that sets the fastest time on these green striped intermediates, even if it's dry, as it is right now as we go through toes. A little bit of traffic for our Season 1 champion to deal with. The Ferrari sat just in front going up the hill on the run towards Piraterra. And then after that, everyone will bolt on those lovely squashy and stretchy, I got that the wrong way around, but we're going to go with it anyway, the soft compound tyres as the Ferrari does get out of the way. And then we will, like you said, have our Banzai pole laps coming right at the death.
Absolutely, you've got to be very careful on track limits. As we saw and heard from Adam Sanderson earlier, it has been greatly revamped coming into F125, but of course the nature of the circuit being that it's always still a concern that you can run that car nice and wide off and invalidate your runs, and it will be equally as important as we get down to those final few moments. Grid Jokes takes away the fastest first sector away from Safso, who currently holds purple in the second. The only driver at the moment to complete 2 sectors on the set of the intermediates. Comes up towards the line, and what's the benchmark going to be? It'll be a 1:18.966, just marginally quicker off the 1:19s. Next across the line will be Lolly Noba, make his way through. No, he'll make his way through sector 1, but he's got no wing. Not quite sure if that's a visual bug we're seeing or whether he's found his good old friend Barry R. Nice and early. Grid Jokes makes his way through the final corner. Can he go faster than Safso? He certainly can indeed, by just over 2.5 tenths of a second. And lots of times are being set in. Gwatz goes fastest in the first sector now, still on a set of the intermediates.
Both Red Bulls looking speedy. Opportunity for them both to try and get themselves back into this race in the constructors' standings. Didn't have a great one last week in Monza. Gwatz down in P14, Kareem in the lower half of the top 10 as well. McLaren and Aston Martin making hay while the sun shone in Monza. Grid Jokes from Saf. So there's Dan Gilligan on the soft tyres, and he's 12 seconds slower than his teammate. That'll be slightly alarming for our legendary presents, but through the final 2 corners, the 2 Ravatsas for Gwatz coming round it, pulling gears up to the line. What will this be? Been decent in the first sector and the second sector, cuts the beam, and it does go only into third. Poor final sector from the Red Bull.
Yeah, not the ideal situation for the team based in Milton Keynes. Hayden Gullis could only go 4th, and that was displaced rather quickly. Map 2-on-2 puts his newly acquired Alpine up into P4. Teswell comes across the line as well for Team Aston Martin. Meraki goes fastest with just over 1 minute and 15 left on this intermediate pole lap. So the Ferrari, as it stands, could be looking to perform rather well. MSkyZ makes his way round. We see purple in the second sector by Chappers, but that, of course, is on a set of the softer tyres. MSkyZ goes 6th fastest, as we see Chappers now setting the fastest of all the times. Bear in mind, that's on the soft tyre, so now we've got to keep keep an eye on a multiple number of laps. Keep an eye on what tyres everybody's on, as we have just under 50 seconds left. Karim 70, known for his pace in qualifying, runs towards the line, can't quite take it away from Meraki, missing out by several seconds, and it's Carl who goes fastest, 0.4 of a second to his name. The Alpine goes the quickest out of all of the intermediate drivers. He could have stolen this away at the end.
Told you, watch out for Carl. He's 0.4 quicker than the Season 4 champion Meraki. And well, if there's ever a time to get your first point in the Creator Series, it's right at the very start with intermediate pole. I don't think anybody's going to be able to hold a candle with that. JD Devilnoob not tracking particularly quickly on his intermediate tyres. Infratic yet to start a lap. And this should be the first ever point in the F1 Creator Series handed out to our friend, our commentary foe. It is Carl.
And here's the timer countdown. 2 seconds, 1 second, 0 seconds remaining, and that confirms it. Clip but Carl has got his first point in the F1 Creator Series, quite literally at the first time of asking, by setting that Inter's pole lap. I'm sure the guys that keep track of that Inter's pole competition will be having a bit of a hair-raising moment as they've got to add a new driver to their championship list. And if you're not part of that, do !Discord in the chat. Come get involved. I believe that's posted in the fan zone after most of the races. It's a fantastic little fan-created spreadsheet that they do keep track of all the runs and all the times over the course of the season, a little bit more so than we have here. It's their own Inter's pole or Inter's championship competition.
100%. Obviously, that point handed out to Team Alpine as well, who are missing one of their main drivers, their former champion Razin Chai, who is technically still in the title fight, but even though his absence here will be felt strongly, there is an opportunity for Carl, considering the pace that we're seeing. And Matt 212 as well, let's not forget him, since he was fairly recently announced as a full-time Alpine driver, taking over from Tom Biener, as Infratic absolutely flies over the Variante Alta chicane, and he's going to be absolutely rapid on this lap, but surely we'll dive into the pit lane to get rid of those intermediate tyres.
Scott Taylor on his outlap on a set of the soft tyres, red walled compounds, and well known within the Formula One world. Scotty Designs, by the way, out on a hot lap as well, as Ricky 03 sets the fastest first sector of anybody, going out at the moment at 23.7 for the Williams as they make their way round his home Grand Prix, one of two that we had, of course, the first round essentially last week, that wildcard switching from Hungary to Monza at the final moment of asking, and now we head to the other Italian grandstand that there is in Formula One, of course, the infamous Imola, where we have a recollection, a memorial to the late, great Ayrton Senna. And I spoke to George the other day, and he got to visit it with, I believe, Formula Regional. And it's the scale of it that you don't quite encompass until you're there.
100%. Brilliant tribute to one of the best to ever do it. But for Scott Taylor, it wasn't one of the best middle sets he's ever done. It was almost sideways and into the gravel, coming through the Piratella. Not a particularly good first set from Scott. Decent in the middle. He gained 0.4 on Chappers, who has the fastest out at the moment, even though it wasn't that fast, and then handed it all back, and now hands the entire lap back to the stewards because he goes over track limits and falling foul of those regulations. Scotty Designs, by the way, pretty much matching Scott Taylor, and he's the first driver to dip into the 114s. 14.9 for the Haas driver, puts 0.3 of a second between himself and the next car.
Stop the count. That's what I'm saying. Let's just end qualifying there. Scotty Designs, by the way, can start from the front of the grid, but alas, we have got still 9 minutes of qualifying and a considerable number of drivers still to set lap times here. We spoke to Dan earlier when the track was announced. He was doing about the 116.1s, dipping into the 115, so maybe we'll have to find some pace here. We're not expecting any rain during qualifying, so that will be a relief to a lot of our drivers. They make their way through. A little bit of a wiggle there for Grid Jokes as he comes through the two Rivazzas through turn number 20 to finish off what will be his flying run on the set of soft tyres. Now goes fastest by just under half a second compared to Scotty Design, by the way, and that is a 14.5 for the team from Woking.
Purple for the Papaya McLaren car. That was really in the first sector where he made a lot of headway, and that was really where the 4.5 difference between himself and Scotty came from. Over halfway through the qualifying session. Now here is Safso, former winner here, has never started, or sorry, only once started and finished lower than 6th here at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Most definitely the best circuit for Safso on the F1 games gone past, and nicely through the Variante Alta is decent so far. A couple of tenths down on Grid Jokes, but it could slot him in between the McLaren and the Haas if it's a good couple of Rivazzas.
Absolutely. The Rivazzas quite often are a make and break situation here at Imola. If you get them right, they go your way and they give you hundredths, if not tenths of a second as you make your way up towards the line. It's foot flat to the floor as you make your way up to the checkered flag, and Sasso does go second fastest now, 14.6 to the Aston Martin, but it can have that adverse effect as well. You quite often have a great lap until you get to the two Ravazzas, and it sometimes goes very, very wrong indeed.
2-on-2, brilliant middle set for the Alpine, pulling gears up to the line. Skies, goes fastest, 14.3. What can Matt 2-on-2 do? He's 6/10 down, so final sector wasn't quite there. Skies has absolutely blitzed sector 1 and now putting nearly 2/10 of a second between himself and the Papaya McLaren. What can the second Red Bull of Gwatz do? He can go even quicker, and by 9 milliseconds, it's Red Bull leading Mercedes. It's like it's 2021 all over again. Ricciardo 3 coming through the Ravazzas now. He's now taken the fastest middle sector. There should be an opportunity here. Ricciardo 3, best finish here at Imola, but he invalidates through the second Ravazzas. So that was a bit of a commentator's curse as Gwatz picks up a 5-place grid penalty. But yeah, Ricciardo 3, best finish in the Creator Series, 5th place back when we did the double header in the previous season of Imola and Monza. The Italian job, of course.
Absolutely. As Gwatz got that 5-place grid penalty for a collision with Hayden Gullis, I was looking up his pole position stats, and he's got 1 to his name previously. This was going to be his second one, obviously, depending on the rules and the regulations, whether that will still be granted to him. I believe it will, as we do give it to Hayden Gullis on occasion when the reverse grid comes into effect. But just over 6.5 minutes left in this qualifying session. Gwatz tops the timing by 9 thousandths of a second, incredibly close between himself and M Sky Z. Carl, on his first attempt on a set of soft tyres, very careful not to invalidate, blows everybody out the water. 6.5 tenths quicker. It's a 13.7 for Clipbook Carl.
Well, we found a new role for our commentary friend. Kareem 17, the reigning champion, is going to have to do quite the job to even match that lap time set by the Alpine driver. And that is quite a statement to put down early on in the session.
Certainly is indeed, and whether he can carry this over to the endurance aspect of Formula One, obviously the main race that we'll have in about 10 minutes or so time, that will be the age-old question. Of course, we could see drivers improve as the track and the air temperature does continue to increase. It's 21 degrees air temperature at the moment, track degree sitting at about 30. So there is room for it to get hotter, of course, as the more and more rubber is laid down by all of our drivers. We'll keep an eye, though, on Karim 17. Purple in the first, purple in the second. So looking to try and put a punch to the gut of the Alpine of Carl. He's got 2 Ravazzas to go, though, and see if he can try and pip out that top spot at the moment with just over 5 minutes left in this qualifying session. He'll have the smallest dose of DRS just before he pips it to the line, crosses it, and no, he can't go quicker. It's by the barest of margins as Meraki goes third fastest, a 14.1 for the Scuderia at his home Grand Prix, but it still stands Carl above them all.
Malakai with the next to try and knock the Alpine out of provisional pole position. Kareem was faster by a 10th in the first sector, faster by a 10th in the middle, but just lost it in the final sector. Maybe the tyres just starting to give up for our reigning champion. And he's got quite the new challenger then he's going to have to deal with. Formula Kai going to have to get his skates on if he's going to get 2 runs in at the end of this qualifying session. Potentially that Haas is fueled up for a couple of laps. Decent first sector though for Kai, still looking for his first victory, of course, in the F1 Creator Series, and with so many big names absent and the pace that Kai has shown so far this season, could it be the week for him?
Certainly could. On his day, Kai can be one of the quickest drivers, of course, competes in competitive league racing, we'll put it that way, and does have a very good reputation about being a quick driver, but quite often hasn't found that form here in the F1 Creator Series, and we are hoping that he does try and make a recollection and bring that pace to a Saturday afternoon. It can be sometimes hard to get out of that competitive league racing environment when we come into what is a content forward series, especially for some of the drivers that do enjoy it probably a little bit more than others in terms of having a bit of fun, naming no names and looking at you, Hayden Gullis. But it is going to be Formula Kai up towards the line. Can he improve? Goes third fastest, as he can't quite slot into the 1:13. He's got a lot of messages in the live chat over on YouTube and Twitch, and don't forget TikTok as well, I believe we're live on, as well as Twitter, or also known as X. Where are a load of the drivers? Well, we've got a considerable number of drivers out at the moment. We've got a couple, I believe, Razin and Vince over in Canada land. We've got Alex Gillen getting married, and of course a few others. They're attending it and hoping to hold back their objections, I'm sure.
All 20 drivers on grid confirm not to be Alex Gillen's friends because they weren't invited to his wedding. That's what we can guarantee so far. But for Carl, it's the final sector where he's miles quicker than anybody else, a quarter of a second quicker than anybody. It's Kareem and Meraki that are the closest to him in the final sector. Kareem purple sector 1, sector 2, and lose it all in that third sector. So I don't know whether that's a setup thing for Carl or just a confidence that he can really attack those two Ravaxas in particular, be right on the limit, right on the bubble of the track limits by keeping it inside the white lines and maximising the performance he can get through those final two corners.
It could be a whole number of things. I think confidence coming into it, you kind of have that element, that aspect where you want to try and prove yourself, especially in a series that has big names in it. You can look through that timing tower on the left-hand side and pick out 2 or 3, and you really go, wow, these guys are quite well known, let's say, in the Formula 1 space. M-Sky Z goes 2 and a bit tenths quicker on his run, but couldn't quite improve up from P4, keeping an eye on Dan Gilligan as well, who's invalidated, unfortunately. But I think Carl's come into this with the mindset of, I want to just do well, I want to prove myself, I want to prove that I can belong to race here, because that is what I think quite a few drivers feel that they come into this series.
I think Carl should have come into this with confidence, though, with the pace that we're seeing. Testbill makes it an Aston Martin 9.10 as he slots inside the top 10 on that 14.7. Can JD Devil just bump him outside the top 10? No, 14.9 for the Kick Sauber and up into position number 14. Just 3 drivers now yet to get under the 1 minute 15 barrier. Hayden Gullis, our very own Dan Gilligan, who's going again and improving by a tenth through the first second, although that looked fairly sedate and fairly ordinary going through the Tozer hairpin, and Hoodie Pete as well on a 16.9. Safso, new day, same internet troubles for our Season 1 champion, disconnecting. That's probably going to be it for Safso in this qualifying session. We are also yet to see Scott Taylor. Riccio 3 has made a couple of mistakes, and Lodanova, who was minus his front wing about 10 minutes ago.
He certainly was. Dan Gilligan's got some upgrades on that McLaren. He must have the most comfiest of seats as he makes his way in towards very anti-alta, down towards the 2 Ravazzas. A little bit of a squirm, though, for himself as he comes at the exit of the chicane, down towards the 2 Ravazzas, looking to improve for himself. Can he try and do it? He stands down in 16th place at the moment, and as he heads through both 2 sectors, it's a personal best first and second. A little bit of a wobble as he exits out of the second Ravaxa, comes up towards the line, crosses, does improve by 0.4 of a second, but it's not enough to jump up from 16th place. That seat insert that he's added this week, obviously not adding enough lap time for his liking.
No, the Daniel Ricciardo McLaren simulator for Daniel Gilligan. Chapper's cutting the beam, start his final flying lap of the session. Been a decent qualifying session so far for the Merc. Currently just sat outside the top 10 by 29 thousandths. But here is our provisional pole sitter car. There was our provisional pole sitter car. We now jump on board with Lolin Ober. Picked up his first win of the season a couple of weeks ago. Backed it up with a podium in his homeland of Monza 7 days ago. Yet to get a time on the board so far. Tracking fairly nicely through the first couple of sectors. A little bit off the pace of our leading group of 5. But if he can get himself comfortably in the top 10, we know the race pace that Lloyd's got in particular, that should set him up nicely.
Certainly should do indeed. Out of the second Ravazza, using all of the track available to him, cuts to the inside, comes towards the beam, goes 9th fastest at a home Grand Prix for himself. We're into the final time of asking now, folks. The checkered flag flies on qualifying. Kai and M-Sky Z cannot make it to the line, but all eyes at the moment on commentator Carl. Clipbook Carl, he goes by many names, but for us up in the commentary box, a well-loved man. If he manages to secure pole position, he comes through the second Ravazza, careful to keep it within track limits. He'll use all of the track on the right hand side. Can he cut across the line? He goes faster again. It's a 13.590 for the Alpine man, and it's provisional pole position again. Can it be taken away though by Karim 70, who'll be sorely predecessed by the Haas car of Scotty Designs, by the way. He'll run up towards the line. 13th fastest for our meme king. It's going to be Karim 17 now as he makes his way up towards the line. Gwat, being the first Red Bull to cross that timing beam, goes 4th fastest. The Ferrari of Infratic makes his way round now. Meraki, though, being the first of the 2 Scuderias, crosses, goes 4th fastest. On this time of asking, all eyes, though, on Karim 17. He wasn't improving in the second. He improves in the third, but it's not enough to take it away. As it stands, it's still Clipbook Carl at the top.
Clipbooker, commentator, driver, pole sitter, Carl with a brilliant lap time there at the end, 13.5. That is some serious wheels, and we should know that pretty strongly. Beating out the reigning champion by just over a tenth, and nobody else, even in the same postcode. These drivers in Italy, Carl and Cream, they're in San Marino, if you get that reference. Very, very well done. Nobody else in the 1 minute 13s, and they're halfway into the 13s, Carl and Kareem. Formula Kai making it 3 drivers whose names begin with K starting inside the top 3, and I don't think that has ever happened before in the Creator Series. Hayden Gullis gets disqualified and will reaffirm his very natural position of 20th and last on the grid. Good laps from Meraki and Gwatz at the end. Skyzy also performing strongly as well. But I mean, the main story on debut is Clipbook Carl taking pole.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a fascinating one, and I think one for the history books, especially for the historians and the journalists and the everybody else that likes to keep an eye on what's been going on in seasons gone past. But it's Alpine that starts from the front. Karim will have a feeling that he's got a warning shot to his back here before we head in towards the first, or the actual Grand Prix element of the F1 Craze Series here this Saturday afternoon. May not be as easy as he was thinking for Clipbook Carl. We'll run you through your complete order for qualifying, then we will throw it back over to Dan and Joseph as well. But it's Carl that takes top spot from Corinne from Formula Kai. Meraki in 4th with Gwatz in 5th with that 5-place grid penalty for the collision with Hayden Gullis. M-Sky Z starts 6th with Grid Joke 7th. Infratic starts 8th with Scott Taylor in 9th and Lolly Noba starting his home Grand Prix from 10th place. Safso starts 11th. Test Wheel qualifies 12th but also has a 5-place grid penalty to his name. Scotty Designs, by the way, from 13th with Chappers in 14th. Ricky 03 in 15th. Matt 212 in 16th with JD Devon in 17th. Dan Gilligan 18th. Hoodie Pete starts 19th and Hayden Gullis, as reliable as ever, disqualified from qualifying.
Well, there we are then, everybody. That has been qualifying, and I can tell you now that clearly the best strategy was to try and set 5 different laps on 3 tyres and only get a valid lap on second runs of 2 of those tyres. So, you know, great. That's how I roll. Everybody else, Joe, how are you feeling about qualifying after that session there?
Well, I think it was a very interesting one, and of course, as I said at the very top of the broadcast, there could be some names right up the very top of the field, and Carl said, and I quote, and now we pray, but here is somebody that's certainly going to be praying for a better performance. Gwatz, who, well, the reactions seemed to suggest that it wasn't intentional, but it certainly looked a little bit risky, and a little bit of risky language as well there from Gwatz. But he gets that 5th place grid penalty, and so does Hayden Gullis. So unfortunate for Gwatz that he picked that grid penalty up, but it did look a little bit risky. But yeah, I mean, going slowly on the racing line, not ideal for him, and Gwatz will be starting 5 places lower down, which should be giving him a little bit of the kick up the backside, which should make a fight through the field be on.
Fantastic. Very, very good indeed. And so, commentators, how have we felt after that qualifying session? Anyone who's overperformed, underperformed, please don't mention me.
I think if we're talking about drivers that have overperformed maybe initial expectations, looking at drivers that have come in and had a bit of a shock, I mean, you can't go without mentioning Clipbook Carl. He's had quite possibly the best qualifying he could have asked for, Inter's pole and pole position as well. So that's a definite point sorted for himself, and he has the best position heading into a race that infamously is quite well won from pole.
Yeah, well, absolutely. That is very much the case. Tom Wilkinson, tell us your thoughts and feelings.
Carl's done a lot of league racing already. He does 100% league races. He's used to this kind of format. He's going to have quite the contender breathing down his neck in Kareem 7T. I think Kareem will be slightly annoyed by the fact that he was nearly 4/10 clear of anybody else and still doesn't take pole position. Somebody like Kyle Meraki might be feeling there's a little bit of a missed opportunity there to try and get amongst those duo that were comfortably away out in front. I think Gwatz looked really strong. I know he's got that 5th-place grid penalty, but to only be a 10th down on Kai in P3, I think that's a really strong effort from him as well.
I think we're just going to allow Dan to get set up and sort of see. Mixing roles is Dan here this afternoon as he gets himself.
It's a bit complicated. There's stuff going on. It just suddenly said to me, "Oh, it's migrating host." I'm like, "Why? What's going on?" So
we'll let him sort all that out just while we get ourselves prepped and ready. Of course, you can have a look over the beautiful Imola here as we have the formation laps starting. Everybody getting themselves prepped and ready, and we are going to see some hijinks, maybe some early disqualifications, because if you are brand new to the F1 Great Series, the formation lap is probably taken a little less seriously than it is in your traditional league race, especially for those maybe starting at the back. We see Hoodie Pete already starting as a disqualification, as is Chappers, and we saw a couple of drivers off into the grass and the gravel as that cloud of smoke gets kicked up by the incredibly large tyres they have on. Dan Gilligan's managed to get back into the session, so fingers crossed he's managed to get his setup and strategy sorted. And speaking of which, you can save 5% at sim racing setups by using the exclamation mark F1CS or clicking the link in the live chat.
Beautifully done. I'm just wincing at some of the shenanigans that are going on here. There was an RB down into the Tamburello chicane that was clearly allergic to the brake pedal. Surely it's going to be Hayden Gullis. I'd be amazed if it isn't. Into the back of the Sauber we go with Test Wheel, trying to get some people disqualified and leave them with ice-cold tyres on the grid and making grip very minimal, slamming into the Sauber. Decked off the circuit goes there. I think that's JD Devil, but now having it out is the RB and Test Will. I'm not sure which RB it is. If it's not, it's Lolinoba that's holding this position. But yeah, the Demolition Derby on the formation lap continues.
It certainly does, and it's one that is pretty much a tale as old as time, as Test Will goes smashing into the back of that V car. I think luckily he's managed to pause in time. Goes off towards the grass just to avoid any further shenanigans. But we do have Karim 17 making his way up towards the start-finish line and up towards their grid boxes, getting themselves prepped and ready for this race we're about to see. We've got the slackers at the back of Dan Gilligan and the Alpine. I'm assuming Matt 212, unless that's Clifford Carl, who's dropped all the way to the back of the grid here. He's having a bit of a laugh and a chuckle to himself, so I'm assuming the AI is driving his formation lap for him, and does start on the harder tyre as well. Which Alpine starts from the back then? It's going to be Matt 212 as we see Carl to slotting into pole position. A couple of drivers pointing over towards the right, get themselves set and ready. The final few cars take to their grid positions here. We are pretty much ready to go. We await the lights and we wait the starting orders from the control. Green flag flies at Imola as all of our cars in their set grid positions. And now we await the lights. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 red lights here at Imola for round 10 of the Creator Series. And for the first time, the lights go out and we go racing. It's a good pull away from Carl, who wants the outside line, the inside for turn 1. Karim 17, though, side by side as they run in towards the first corner. Who's going to be brave on the brakes? Karim looks towards the outside line, too wide as Karim goes spinning around. It's Formula Kai that benefits. Karim 17, though, drops through the order as Carl made contact, and Karim's out of the race already. Safety car is deployed.
Absolute carnage. Championship probably throwing the skip. The only contender that was still here this week is gone through the first chicane. Safsodad as well. Only the second time he'll fail to finish inside the top 6. But what has gone on there? Carl and Karim, they both got off the line brilliantly. Karim tried to hang it around the outside. They know each other incredibly well. And the Red Bull Racing driver, the reigning champion, ending up sideways and having about 16 other cars plunging into the side of him and taking a very early shower. There's damage absolutely everywhere. In fact, he's got half a front wheel in his Ferrari car. I saw so many penalties handed out for either collisions under the safety car, overtaking under the safety car. It's thrown everything up in the air. And well, Carl finds himself in second, but his main role for the Grand Prix is down pit road.
Wow, that was the most unexpected start to the Grand Prix. We see cars go 2 by 2 there, and I wonder which of the two cars maybe got a little bit over-optimistic as they made their way in towards that first chicane. Tamburello can quite often throw a bit of a curveball later in the race, but not necessarily that earlier on. And we see Safso out, so 2 drivers retiring in the space of pretty much as many corners. Lots of penalties handed out amongst the field as well. We've got 4 drivers, each with, I believe, 10 seconds to their names. We have Lolinoba and a lot of other drivers into the pits as well, and I think that is going to be a considerable amount of damage for all of the cars involved. Front wings going everywhere as Tesla gets another penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so I think 20 seconds for himself at the moment, and for Team Aston Martin won't be too happy about that. You can see the absolute plethora of front wings that are being replaced on this opening lap here, Tom.
Who's in P7? Dan Gilligan. He must be lost. He's got a nosebleed. He's so high up the order. P7 for our presenter friend. He's only got Scotty Designs. Hayden Gullis started last. Somehow Hayden, I mean, he's going to be lapping up that cleanest driver award because he's one of only about 6 drivers that kept their nose clean, starting on the soft tyres, and now he's found himself nestled inside the top 5.
Well, he said before the race got started that he wasn't necessarily sure he wanted to partake in today's Grand Prix. He saw the amount of reserves and the amount of step-in drivers that were going to take to the field, so to speak, and then decided he probably was quite happy with the carnage and the chaos that was about to happen. So obviously he's benefited quite well from that. The only driver to start on the set of the soft tyres alongside Ricky 03. Everybody else started on the set of the mediums or the hard and have changed off to a completely different degree. We got someone on the intermediates by the name of Hoodie Pete down in 16th place. I'm not quite sure what's happened there. I'm assuming meant to go onto the hard tyres, gone one flick over too many, and has ended up on the intermediate tyres. But we are going to have a replay in the next few moments. We'll hear from Joseph when he's ready to run us through what can only be described as opening lap carnage and chaos, because there's only one way to look at it, and that's from the driver's point of view. But until we hear from that, we will keep you on board with the run through, and it is Kai that leads from Carl from Meraki from Gwatz as your front four at the moment, Tom.
Yeah, I'm just watching Kareem's POV of this just before we get it up, and his headset almost gets abducted and goes into the stratosphere. You'll see what happens when we have that looking flipbook corner. But yeah, only one Red Bull Racing car left standing. Gwatz doing a good job keeping his nose clean as well on those hard tyres, up into P4 after the penalty, dropped him down to P10. This shakes up the strategy as well. People were worried. I saw a couple of comments that people were worried about, we didn't have a lot of the big guns here. Maybe we should have had a break week this week. I can tell you, we've had quite the start, everybody. I don't think anybody could have predicted what happened. Let's take a look, though, because in Clipbook Corner, Joe is ready. Please take us through what happened, because we need to know.
Well, it was certainly an interesting incident, and this is Kareem going into the first corner, just on the outside. Carl just getting over the curb, and that was Kareem. Hit and grid jokes, just continuing with his momentum, and that saw Kareem out of the race, as you say. Headphones got yeeted, I think is the technological term for that, and that is Kareem's point of view of him being out of the race. And I will be able to bring you Meraki's POV while we are here, and you can see that face and that reaction, which shows a lot. But we're going to go back to the start of it, and it's just, he managed to get pretty scot-free out of that one, all things considered. But out of the race, and Meraki, I think, providing us with another little snippet that I'm sure we'll be seeing some gifs of later on.
Well, you don't need a lip-reading degree to understand what Meraki said there after the contact happened.
There's a McLaren off, by the way.
Self-explanatory.
I think Dan Gilligan, sorry to jump in there, but coming out of the Variante Alta, I think Dan Gilligan may have had a chat with Barry R there. He doesn't have any damage, but he's got a 10-second penalty and maybe need for some new pants.
That's a real shame for Dan there. He was in such a good position. Hayden Gullis, as I think the chat has alluded to, going, how TF is Hayden... Well, sorry, what is Hayden doing up in P5? Cooking, I think, is the best way to potentially describe it. Have we got a replay of the crash? Well, we did just go through some POVs of everything else and saw the driver's point of views. It was a little bit carnage and chaos as well, but we can go back and have a look. Of course, if you're watching on Twitch or watching on YouTube or wherever you choose to take all your Creative Series content from, you can go back and have a look at it from how it happened live. Hoodie Pete, I can report, has come off the set of the intermediates, bolted on a set of the mediums, as has Test Well, who's done one lap on mediums, another lap on hards, another 2 laps on hards, and then bolted on another set of the medium tyres, and of course served his penalty whilst doing so. So I believe Dan Gilligan will be the only driver left with a 10-second penalty to his name, and that would be rather heartbreaking considering the number of penalties that were handed out left, right and centre. And there we go, clarification that Dan is the only driver left with a penalty as we await Testwell and the Aston Martin to catch up with the rest of the field. You can see it at the bottom right-hand side of your screens. He's making his way down towards Tosa at the moment. The rest of the field just heading down through Aqua Minerale up towards Variante Alta to finish off lap 4 of 63. Hopefully, we'll have some racing going in the next few moments here, Tom.
Fingers crossed, bit of luck. We got one chicane on our first attempt, didn't we, before everybody started piling into one another. Remember Test Will? He had 2 10-second penalties, so that's why he's been into the pit lane a couple of times to get rid of one. You can't serve all 20 seconds in one big go, so we'll have to do the 2 10s individually. Will he catch the pack by the end of the lap? Will the safety car come in at the end of this lap? It's very, very late coming into the first Ravats. We know that on the game, it can get brought back into the pit lane incredibly late, almost as they come out of the final corner. We'll just hold our breath to see if that message comes up. The safety car is just passing the pit lane, and we will have one more lap of safety car running. Test Will not quite catching the rear of the Snake, and Formula Kai will have one more lap before he can back the pack up and try his best to bolt away.
Absolutely. You could see Formula Kai just slightly backed off there at the exit of the second Ravazza, just making sure that he wasn't going to get caught out if that safety car did go in rather late. We've got questions in the chat. What happened to Sapso? And that's probably a question I'd love to have answered as well. I believe he is. I'm not sure if he's streaming here this afternoon. I'm sure if he is, Joseph will be able to give us some inside information as to whether we can go get a POV from the Aston Martin that finds himself with an early shower here at Imola. But for the time being, we'll focus on the race as it stands. We're on lap 5, we'll go racing on lap 6. We've had 5 laps of safety car already. That's an incredible amount of time that we've had the safety car out for. There will be Formula Kai, the leads from Carl, of course, slightly caught up in the carnage, and he has dropped just 1 position as he finds himself second, with Meraki in third, who has come up 1 position, started in 4th. The big climbers, though, Watts, who's now 4th, started in 10th, and Hayden Gullis in 5th, who started from 20th. We've got Scotty Designs starting down in P12, finds himself in P6, and of course the McLaren of Dan Gilligan started 18th and finds himself in 7th. So everybody else just having to shuffle and reorder themselves as they make their way through, and everybody else just getting accustomed to what is happening. I've got 1 question for you though, Tom, just before we get going with the race. Hayden Gullis started on the soft tyres. Surprised he didn't pit under that early safety car.
I think he just found himself with so much unexpected track position that he's like, well, I can't really waste this opportunity. If I can just keep myself in this position, I could set myself up for a really good result. Remember, he picked up a 2nd place back in Season 5, another race where half the grid were absent, and Hayden most definitely made hay while the sun shone. But yeah, watch out for him on this restart, because with 2 drivers ahead that are on the hard tyres, it will take a little bit of time to fire up. Hayden could find himself stumbling onto the podium.
He certainly could do indeed. First safety car restart of the race then. We will restart on lap 6 of 63. It's going to be Formula Guy that controls this restart. Snail's pace as we exited out of the second Ravazza, but puts his foot to the floor. And it's green flag racing again. Meraki already on the back of Clipbook Carl as they make their way through the first corner in towards the second and third. Who's going to be brave on the brakes? Oh, I wondered if we were going to see a repeat of the first lap here, but it's Meraki that backs out sensibly, allows Carl the position, as for now we get further than we've done throughout this entire race under green flag conditions. Grid Jokes want to move on Lolly Noba, up for P8 as they make their way through the second chicane of Villeneuve. Towards Tosa we go, up to the top of the hill to the inside of Lolly Noba. Dan Gilligan loses the position. He's up in P7th, now finds himself in P8 and falling further as Grid Jokes wants a place made as well.
Having his pocket pinched by the moment, still going to have it out with his teammate. Off he goes, and in unison, Riccio 3 falls into the gravel, going through the Piratella as well. And that's a couple of drivers losing more than just a couple of places. Lorinova through, Grid Jokes and Infratic, who also picked up damage on that opening lap, finds himself back inside the top 9. Dan Gilligan does hold on to his spot inside the top 10, albeit I don't think it's going to last particularly long. I have to be honest, Scott Taylor starting 8th, he now finds himself down in 14th, make it 13th as he puts one over on Riccio 3. Here comes Matt 212, dangling the front wing of that Alpine up the inside on the run into the first Ravazza. He's going to be braver on the brakes than Dan. Is there going to be contact? Yes, there is. Well, substantial contact as the wheel bang goes on. Dan trying to fight it out, but for the second time runs into the gravel, and for not the last time, loses a couple of spots.
Carl's now the fastest man on the circuit. For set the fastest laps, we made our way on towards lap 7. We've got a battle here. Chappers wanting to make a way past the newest entry in towards the F1 Crate Series of Matt 212. They make their way in towards Tamburello. Fantastic opportunity there for the young disabled man. He races on controller and is incredibly quick when he does so. And Matt 212 has been absolutely left in the dust by the Mercedes here this afternoon. Hasn't been able to capitalise as much as he would have liked on the opening lap chaos, but we switch our attention up towards Clipbook Carl and Formula Kai, who leads this race still through the incredibly fast left-hander down towards Aqua Minerale for only the 3rd time under racing conditions. Are we going to see a move made as Scotty Designs has had a bit of a mistake further back? He's dropped 2 positions from Lolly Noble and Grid Jokes.
Watch Carl dirty. It doesn't matter when you've got pace like he's got. Sticks like glue to the rear end of that Haas through the middle sector and still following in the footsteps of Formula Kai through the Variante outer chicane, and surely with the helping hand of DRS is going to blast past as we cut the beam to start lap number 8. Both of them on the medium tyres. Meraki and Watts behind on the hard tyres. Scott Taylor is the first to pick up a penalty for corner cutting, and that's very early on for Scott to be picking up that 3-second penalty. But as we cut the beam, lap number 8 will commence, and surely as the rear wing flap will open, maybe a bit of battery, the slipstream coming into effect as well, and our pole sitter should re-emerge in the lead of the race, and does so comfortably.
I thought for a moment we were going to see a similar battle on lap one again, but Kai does the sensible thing. Of course, a well-experienced league racer. We talked about that earlier as well, and continuing pour through. And We got a question in the chat. Will Ben retire? There's 3 wide moment there. That's JD Delvanoob getting caught up with his teammate Scott Taylor, and Dan Gilligan also involved. We saw Scott Taylor last time he went to Imola, off in towards the grass and the gravel, having a very similar conversation this time as well. But it's going to be Scott Taylor who's got wing damage. Front left end plate missing. Could be under pressure from JD Delvanoob here as we head through Tota and up the hill towards Aqua Minerale. But it's close between all of our drivers here. No one's really pulling away maybe as much as they would have liked.
First break in the main DRS train though, and it's Hayden Gullis that's fallen 1.3 seconds off the back of the Red Bull of Guats. I think those soft tyres may be starting to struggle. They're not a particularly good race time, not just at this circuit, but on this game in general. And there may be some team orders going on as Lolinova cruises up to the back of his team.
Absolutely, it's going to be a close battle. Hayden Gullis, who still is getting nosebleeds in towards the 2 Ravatsas. Hayden Gullis trying to push forward towards Squats, who did start slightly further down the order, down in P10. Carl sets another fastest lap of the race. We make our way through. The race leader is the fastest man on circuit. We've got a battle between the 2 V-carbs here. Lolly Nova is allowed to go by Hayden Gullis, told to go and get on with it, as we see a battle for Grid Jokes trying to get involved in towards the chicane. The McLaren rather, running that beautiful chrome livery that was recently released by EA Sports, is looming in the mirrors of Hayden Gullis, and we'll be hoping to try and make a pass at the first time of asking.
Flash past Hayden at the first opportunity that presents itself. Infratica's got ahead of Scotty Designs as well, and that Ferrari looming large in the mirrors of Grid Jokes. Also that secondary DRS train that Lolinova trying to break away from. I think Hayden Gullis is really starting to grab the grip on those red striped soft compound tyres, nearly fallen out of a second behind his teammate, who continues to soldier on and chase after the leading quartet of Carl, Formula Kai, Meraki and Gwot, who will be next to Blink in this train. Is it Hayden Gullis trying his best to cling onto the coattails of his team, or will Grid Jokes sense the opportunity, seize the opportunity and pull past into P6?
That's the question. Is he going to succumb to Infratic, who's just close in behind, just about 0.3 of a second between the drivers at the moment? Scotty Designs, by the way, worth a mention, sat in P9, come up from P12, so 3 positions gained from the house car. We'll have Chappers behind him, which is no driver to rule out as we make our way onto lap 10. So it's still close between all of our drivers. You can see no one really more than a couple of seconds behind, with the exception of Ricky 03 and Scott Taylor, who have got into the box more than once during the course of this Grand Prix. Meraki still being held at bay by Gwot, so no podium at the moment for the Scuderia Ferrari, but we could see some late race action here as Scotty Design gets a 3-second penalty for multiple track limit warnings.
Yeah, and I'm surprised really that Meraki fell out of the DRS range of not least Formula Kai, and Kai out in front and getting gobbled up by the Red Bull of Gwotz. There's a Haas going wide. I believe that might be Scotty Designs, by the way. Nobody really in the same pitch to challenge him. Chapper's not close enough to think about a move down to toes, but as the Haas is slightly out of kilter and slightly offline, maybe there's the smallest of opportunities up the hill into turn number 9, but Chapper's again not quite close enough, and Scotty Designs are going to have to turn his attention to getting back within the 1 second window of the group in front. He has been successful in his attempts of doing so.
Certainly has been. I wonder how much of an impact it will have racing on controller versus a wheel for Chappers. The Scotty Designs, by the way, quite infamously race on wheel. A little bit of a snap there for Dan Gilligan as they crested the top of the hill just after Aqua Minerale, actually, just coming up towards the final chicane of the lap. We got Hayden Gullis back in view here, who's dropped considerably off the back of his teammate of Lolly Nova, still having put under pressure from Grid Jokes and Fratic and Scotty Designs as well through the final corner and on towards lap 11 of 63. It's all very close in the field. No one quite going for some chaos and late moves. We do see Grid Jokes to the inside for turn number 2. We'll go later on the race. I think Infratic tried to follow him through, didn't necessarily have the grip on this occasion. The softer tyres for Hayden Gullis could start to fall away here as Fabio wanting to try and put pressure on the Team RB in towards the Villeneuve chicane now. Towards Tosa we go. And it is going to be a look to the inside, fakes to the outside, this way. Which way is he going to go? In fact, he can't quite decide and runs into the back of Hayden Gullis.
Couldn't go left, couldn't go right, instead clattered the rear of the RB, and now he's going to try and go around the outside of the Piratella. Hayden Gullis is struggling for grip, not quite close enough on that occasion. Infratic, not for the first time, taps the back of the man currently holding position number 7. These two have got some previous as well in the Creator Series, don't they just? I think Fabio's going to be sick to the back teeth at the sight of that RB still in front of him as we come into the final sector of lap number 11.
It's going to be a bit of a strategy and a patience game here. I'm imagining at the moment it's going to be one that could be won on tyre wear and consumption as we make our way through the course of this Grand Prix, a sixth of the way through. As we cross onto the start-finish line next time around. There was a brief yellow flag there for half a second, but all cleared now. We are back to green flag racing all across this beautiful and historic circuit. up towards lap 13 of 63. And Fabio now looks to remove on Hayden Gullis. The rear wing will open for the Scuderia Ferrari in towards turn 1. Easy pass made there for Mr. Fabio, Mr. Infratic in towards the chicane. I thought Scotty was going to try and send a move to the inside as well. Couldn't quite have the opportunity for the dying soft tyres for Hayden Gullis are becoming more and more evident now.
When does he bite the bullet and dive into the pit lane? That's the next question that Hayden Gullis is going to have to answer, and answer fairly quickly, because this Haas is nipping at the heels of that RB and trying to get past as soon as possible. Then he's got a couple of Mercedes cars, starting inside the top 5. He's lost a load of places after the lap 1 skirmishes up the inside into turn number 9. We're going to have a look with Scotty Designs, but doesn't want to make that slightly audacious move down the inside of Hayden Gullis. Hayden, we know, will be absolutely desperate to try and grab hold of the cleanest driver extra point that you get at the end of the Grand Prix, and won't be wanting to take any undue risks.
Absolutely. He's got to have a bit of a patience game about him. No mistakes is going to be the name of the game, especially here in Imola, and we know how catastrophic track limits have been in previous titles and rectified for F1 25. That was clarified by Adam Sanderson earlier, who was the voiceover for that hot lap provided by Sim Racing Setups, and of course not racing here this afternoon. It might be worth keeping an eye though on the lead battle. Meraki has been well and truly dropped as Hayden Gullis in towards the pit lane there. But it's about 3 seconds gap as Gwatz gets past Meraki now. So it's now the Red Bull that stands in P3. Meraki's been overtaken just as they made their way through Tamburello. Turns 2, 3 and 4. I think you won't be too happy about that.
Keep trading blows, but neither of them have got the pace really to hold a candle to the leading duo. Carl and Formula Kai cruising out in front. That gap 3 seconds between second and third. Hayden Gullis make his way down the agonisingly long and slow pit lane here at Imola. That's going to lose you a whole host of time, and realistically your strategy is going to have to be based around making as fewer pit stops as possible, because that's nearly 35 seconds that you'll be handing back if you have to make an extra stop.
Absolutely. It's probably one of the longest pit lanes we have to deal with in Formula 1, or modern day Formula 1 to say the least. It doesn't look that long, but when you actually sit down and break down the fundamentals of it, it's just so slow, and it covered pretty much the entire length of that straight down through turn 1 in fact. And actually brings you out just before you head in towards turns 2, 3 and 4 for Variante Tamburello. We keep on board with Grid Jokes though, just on the back of Infratic, making their way down towards the 2 Ravazzas to finish off lap 13 of 63 on towards 14. So we've got the front 2 now battling it out. Formula Kai gets past Carl at the first time of asking, with that DRS just working between themselves to try and pull forwards, as Meraki also gets past Gwatz here up towards the podium positions. Grid Jokes looking to maybe try and make a move, but could be too far back on this occasion, and McLaren can't quite take advantage of that extra straight line speed here.
Oh, but look at this up the inside. It's Matt 2-on-2 diving down the inside of Chappers into Tamburello, and Mercedes has to get out of it. On the previous lap, he let his teammate go, now sees the Alpine file past as well, and Test Will is going to be the latest on the hit list to try and relegate that Mercedes further down the order, and not troubling any apexes as we go through the Villeneuve chicane. And looking down the inside is the Aston Martin of Test Will into the Tosa hairpin. What can Chappers do around the outside? Dan Gilligan, no Dan, he's got a penalty to add to the 10 seconds he's already got. But as we charge up the hills, surely it's going to be Test Will that takes the high ground, and he does. And that is Chappers losing a couple of places there in the first half of lap 14.
Yeah, rather unfortunate for Chappers, of course, on 12 lap old mediums, pitted after that first lap instant and is pretty much on similar tyres to those around. And we've got Test Will on considerably newer tyres on 10 lap olds compared to everybody else. A couple of laps to the favour. We must be reminded that he pitted those couple of times when the first safety car was out to clear the 20 seconds worth of penalties that he had added to his name. We did get a quick reminder of how many penalties everybody has just flash up on the screen there. It's going to be an interesting battle for some of our drivers to try and hold it out. We've got Gwatz getting back past Meraki as well. As the battle for third and fourth, I think, continues to hot up as we make our way through this Grand Prix.
They're just trying to stem the flow, stop them losing too much time to that duo out in front. And since they have been DRS training and trying to work together, they have managed to stabilise. It has just hovered and stayed around about 3.1, 3.2 seconds, the gap between second and third. So they're doing a good job, with Molinova still just about in the same ballpark, a further second and a half back. Skyzy up into P8. Grid Jokes fine disposing of Infratic, moving that McLaren inside the top 6, back into the top 6 after the carnage we saw on the opening lap. And here is Carl in the middle sector. He seems so comfortable and so much more able than a lot of other drivers to stay really close, even with a face full of dirty air.
Yeah, he's quite patiently waiting. He gets the move done when he needs to, but he's actually working together with Formula Kai here. They've lost a little bit of time to the like of Gwatz and Meraki by about 0.4 of a second, so nothing major to write home about. I think that's probably worth noting here at the moment. But at the moment, he's looking very comfortable up in the top positions. Quite often we'll get the new reserves in that aren't comfortable or aren't wanting to lead the races as much as we're seeing here. But Kai and Carl, the two of them working very well together. You can see Kai actually moving to the outside line there to allow the Alpine through, and they're working together to try and pull away. Whereas Meraki and Gort, I think, doing something similar to try and recover up towards the leading two, but hoping the leading two will fight at the same time.
Working really nicely is Infratic and Gridjoke's doing something similar. The Ferrari fast past the McLaren. It was deja vu from the previous app, even though it was the McLaren on that occasion getting past the Ferrari. And they'll try and close up to the back of Lodonova, who is also inching up towards Meraki and Gwatz. That gap just hovering over a second now, and I think it's not going to be too long before Lolly has a dose of DRS as well to get himself into the battle for the final spot on the podium. Here's JD Devilnoob, 11.5 seconds off the back of the nearest car as the race continues to rage on.
Certainly does indeed. And whilst this race continues to run its course, we're going to throw it over to Joseph Black over in Clipbook Corner, who's got a couple of things to keep us informed about.
Yeah, so I've got a point of view of exactly why Safso is out of the race. It's from Matt 212, and you can see this first corner skirmish where Matt 212 is just on that inside. He's trying to stay clear of everybody and just accelerates, thinks he's about to be ready to get going again. And then he punts into the back of Safso. So that is certainly not ideal for him. And that was the reason that Safso dropped out of the race. And then just a little bit later on, we have the clip from, we have a clip from the perspective of Scott Taylor, just to see what's happened between himself and Daniel Gilligan. It was a little bit later on in the lap. But Daniel Gilligan driving just like Daniel Gilligan does. Very, very cool as he does a huge drift into the chicane, and then on the exit, this is the reason that Scott Taylor got his penalty, because he looked down the inside. Daniel just tried to squeeze him a little bit too far over the line, and hard but fair racing. Scott Taylor picked up that 3-second penalty, but Daniel Gilligan defending like a champion.
I think there's certainly multiple ways that you can say how Dan Gilligan was defending there. Tokyo drifting as he made his way up towards Variante Alta, turns 14 and 15 of this 20-turn circuit. The beautiful Imola that is envisioned in history over the course of multiple years in Formula One, dating all the way back to, I believe, the early 60s, the late 70s of this. Questions coming through the live chats, both on YouTube and on Twitch as well. What happened at the start? That's a very good question. Both Karim and Safso got caught up in carnage. It was the two front runners. It was Carl and Karim 17 that got tangled up. There was a bit of a Constantina effect that caused everybody else to come together. And unfortunately, that led to Safso's demise here. And a question from Mark in the live chat. Who's Carl? Well, if you've been watching any of the Creator Series comments or Creator Series broadcasts in the last few weeks, in the last few months, it's commentator Carl, also known as Clipbook Carl quite often, decided to step in for a race here this afternoon, and in my opinion is doing rather well. We're going to speak to Dan Gilligan slightly later on, about halfway through this race, just to get his update and his breakdown, see how his race is going. But for the time being, Tom, it's pretty much all plain sailing for most of our drivers.
Things have just calmed down ever so slightly. We say that because Dan Gilligan is now having it out with Hayden Gullis. Was jinking all over the show down the main straight through the flat out turn number 1. Hayden Gullis does move up into P15. He started on the soft tyres, did Hayden, from last, then stumbled into position number 5 after the carnage on the opening lap as Dan Gilligan once again gets all loosey-goosey. Hayden now having it out with Hoodie Pete down into Villeneuve, and that's a couple of places made up by Hollywood. Hayden Gullis down into the first 2 chicanes of the lap.
Absolutely, he's now got Hoodie Pete for company. Dan Gilligan still trying to put the pressure on him, starting on the hard tyres. Unfortunately, probably through no choice of his own. Of course, he had a little bit of a disconnection between the sessions. We heard that whilst we were trying to speak to him between qualifying and the race. He had the migrating host issue, dropped him out of the session. And of course, his AI was driving that formation lap, so didn't quite get the optimal choice on strategy. Is still on the hard tyres, looking to go long, and obviously will have the pace in the second half of this Grand Prix. But he's accompanied by 2 Williams at the moment. He's got Hoodie Pete in front, Riccio 3, looking for a little bit of redemption in his own Grand Prix here, as he has the most almighty of rear-end kicks coming through Variante Alta down towards Ravazza. And he is going to try and get past Dan Gilligan, but a bit of an unknown precedent here for the Williams that stands in 17th.
100%, and the oversteer must be contagious because Dan Gilligan has pretty much drifted out of every single corner, absolutely abusing his rear tyres. He is going to blast past the first Williams and Hoodie Pete, but he's got another to deal with because here comes Ricky 03. Just for the moment, we're 3 wide. Ricky's onto the grass as we go through turn number 1. Watch out for Hoodie Pete on the outside as well, rapid in a straight line. The McLaren finds himself in a Williams sandwich, and the filling is spat to the curbs through the Tamburello chicane, and Dan Gilligan, not for the first time, and let's be honest, probably not for the last time, finds himself sideways.
Could say he was spread thin in that sandwich, unfortunately, as they made their way through the opening chicane. Tamburello is a cruel mistress and quite often will spit you out and throw you up, and it's not been the easiest of introductions for Dan Gilligan here to the F1 Create Series on F1 25. It's, I think, a rather historic end. We saw the race down in Australia on last game on F1 24, had a very similar result. He ended up in the wall as he exited through turns 9 and turns 10. But alas, this time hasn't quite been the redeeming factor that he would have liked to. We see Lottie Noba on the back of Gwatz and Meraki. The battle for P3 starting to hot up as more and more drivers start to make their way in towards that train. We see Kai and Carl just slightly further up in the distance as we make our way towards Tosa and up towards Piratella. It's lap 20 of 63, 1/3 of the way through this Grand Prix at the moment, and Lottie Noba starting to get slidey on a set of the harder tyres. Of course, has already pit and did so after that first lap carnage. Has done 18 laps on those harder tyres, but at the moment they are starting to maybe fail on him early.
Eventually, Hayden Gullis continues to soldier on. He made a pit stop about 5 or 6 laps ago to jump onto a set of the hard tyres and up into unlucky P13. But I wonder if now's the time that Meraki thinks he can start just trying to stretch his legs ever so slightly. The hard tyres, you would imagine, will be better than the mediums that Carl and Formula Kai have got bolted on. And the gap is just starting to erode ever so slightly. This is the closest that the driver in third has been to the driver in second since the safety car restart on lap number 6. And maybe we're just seeing the crossover points start to come. And do Carl and Kai have to try and start working together now to keep this group at arm's length?
They certainly do indeed. I think now's about the perfect time to get Mr. Gilligan in for a bit of a chat, just to see how his race has been going. Dan, we've been keeping track of your progress throughout the course of this race. Got caught up with 2 Williams. Not the most ideal of sandwiches to find yourself in, but how has it been from the cockpit?
I've been bullied! I've been bullied really hard! These creators, I've distracted myself. That's not good. That's very not good. Oh, now I've got to catch Pete all over again. Oh, dear. It's all not going very well, really, if we're being completely honest. I'm rather hoping for a safety car at some point, but I don't think that would really do very much to help me.
Tom, I'll let you lead out with this one for the next question.
I'll bring you back into contention, maybe just for you to have another bit of a whoops. Are you struggling slightly with the rear end of that car? Because you have had a few slightly eye-raising moments.
I think generally, yes, you could say that. I mean, it's a lot of horsepower and one very stupid right foot, or certainly a stupid person the right foot is attached to. But yes, I mean, it's good fun. But for my first ever race in this game, it is proving to be a tricky affair, shall we say? It's these boys and girls. They've all done this before. You can just tell.
And just one kind of clarifying question for you, let you get back to the racing. Obviously, you were hoping to retain the crown that you so boldly claimed you still owned, the fastest commentator, which I'm still disputing, by the way. However, I have a very strong feeling you aren't going to be taking it home today.
That, I'm afraid, is very rude of you, and it's not over until the final lap. Just ask Lewis Hamilton and Felipe Massa, unless you ask them about their courtroom proceedings in the modern day, in which case it's not over on the last lap. But, anything can happen. Carl could end up being hit by a thermonuclear warhead on the other side of the circuit. Who knows? Could be all sorts of things going on in this race yet to come. Obviously, I hope that doesn't happen to Carl, but it could. I just went sideways. So there we are. That's that. I think I'm about to be overtaken by Scott Taylor.
Well, on that note, Dan, we'll let you get back to the driving.
It's like an angry swarm of Scottish bees. He goes flying past in the Sauber. And I don't think he's going to make this easier trying to get back at him. No, that's it. He's got me.
Well, on that note, and on that truly horrific bombshell, we'll leave Dan Gilligan and let him get on with the rest of his racing. It's been a pleasure to talk to him as always, and hopefully his prediction of a thermonuclear warhead doesn't come true here in Imola.
Has anybody got any tissues? I'm genuinely crying. I think he needs to concentrate more on himself than Carl out in front, because he started speaking to us. He looked the rears going into Variante Alta, then jumped into the gravel a couple of times. Maybe he was just missing it after how attached he was to it in the early stages of the Grand Prix. Had 5 killing apps. I thought, I know who I am. 2 words, Daniel Gilligan.
It's both a name and a verb as well. If you look up in the Oxford English Dictionary, it actually says chaos personified. If you look it up in the Oxford English Dictionary, you can use the online version as well, because I guarantee most of you people at home don't have a dictionary in your homes. You should get one. They are very, very useful. We see someone drop through the order. Fratic and M Sky Z might have had a bit of an incident there at Tozer, as we see both of them just falling through. And Fratic gets back past Grid Jokes. M Sky Z just in the background. I wonder if we had a little bit of a tap there as we made our way through the increasingly tight hairpin.
100%. Skyzy definitely has some gravel on those tyres. The Scotty Designs was about 5 seconds, I think, off the back of this trio. So they've obviously tripped over themselves to quite some serious extent. Now 10 seconds off the back of Lolly, and with a Haas that we have to say, we haven't spoken too much about Scotty, but he was doing an incredibly commendable job out there. He has got a 3-second penalty, but now blasting away from Fabio, using the battery to try and keep the Ferrari at arm's length. And our meme lord, our meme king himself, doing a very good job in P6.
Certainly is indeed. Meraki gets past, Kai gets past as well, so double move up at the top of the leaderboard at the moment. They're still working together, these 2 pairs of 2 that are probably very shortly going to become one group of 4 to make their way through, probably roughly around half race distance, lap 30, if my maths is anywhere near correct. It's about 1.5 seconds difference between Meraki and Khan as it stands. That was about 3 seconds back towards the start of the Grand Prix after the safety car and the carnage that ensued from that. Obviously, we have the front 2 continue to pull away, but they are starting to drag themselves back, kicking and screaming in towards this battle in the competition now. About 1 second difference between them, and Lottie Nova still within this fight. We've got a 4-way battle, though, for P6 on circuit. We've got Scotty Designs, Fabio, Grid Jokes, and M Skies. They all starting to come close together. Through the top of Piratella we go, down towards Aqua Minerali. An easy overtaking spot sometimes, just to stick a nose down the inside, maybe send a creator wide. We have quite often seen moves made there on occasions gone past.
Back in front as well. It is now a quintet battling over the top 5 places on the grid. Meraki inside of 1 second of Carl for the first time since the restart. And we do have a 5-way scrap out in front. The leading duo on the mediums and the trio behind on hard tyres of differing ages. And Carl, I think, is going to relinquish the race lead because, oh no, it's Formula Kai, sorry, is going to dive into the pits, and he's the first to blink. So the split second that chasing peloton caught up to the leading duo. Carl says, I've had enough of this. Get me off these medium tyres. I'll bolt on a set of the hard compound tyres. Try to get an undercut and maybe try to get some slightly better track position. But I think if we can return to Kai's teammate, Scotty Designs, is going to be under a little bit of pressure. Indeed, he's got a Ferrari going around the outside and a McLaren sticking his nose up the inside. Through goes Infratic. Grid Jokes is down the inside. Is it going to be a repeat of what happened on the opening lap? We can't quite see, but as they appear from behind the Aramco-sponsored barrier, Infratic goes through, Grid Jokes goes through, and thankfully everybody is still pointing in the right direction. Oh, not quite though. As we say that, Scotty Designs almost filling his underpants as he was completely perpendicular to the circuit there. And Sky, as he says, thank you very much. I'll lap that one up with a knife and fork because he's been handed 7th place on a plate.
Well, that was almost commentator's curse coming back to bite Scotty Designs in the rear almost a few seconds after saying it. But as you alluded to earlier, it is Formula Kai in towards the pits. He off to set of the mediums on a set of the hards to hopefully see him through till the end of this race as to be expected, probably for the one stop here in Imola. It can often chew tyres up, but I think it has been to some relief that creators aren't finding the track too hot. 32 degrees is the track temperature, air temperature 22 degrees, so not too bad at the moment, as we have got a car in the pit lane. Carl comes in now at the second time of asking. I think this is trying to prevent that undercut from Formula Kai, as Kai does get past Test Will. The Alpine's into the box, hard tyres on as well.
Like I said earlier, this is going to be an agonising wait to try and get that limiter off. Cars flying past you left, right and centre. Through goes a couple duelling. That's Grid Jokes getting ahead of Infratic. Skyzy and Scotty Design still in hot pursuit. Matt 2-on-2 is passed as well. And now we can reassess where we are in this Grand Prix. There is the Haas coming into the foreground of shot. Who's going to be in the lead of the race? The net lead of the Grand Prix. It's very close. Carl spat out of the pits into the path almost of Kai. But it is the Haas that has the high ground for the time being. And the undercut's giving him the track position. But Carl is still very much there.
I think Carl might have actually had to back out there slightly because he was watching Kai just come across him to try and get that optimal line in towards the second corner. Because, of course, the first is that little kink to the left. You then head into Tamburello, turns 2, 3, and 4. So you've got to have that right-hand side to then make the move in towards the corner. So I think he just backed off, maybe saved the graces for both of the drivers. But, of course, still in hot pursuit, 0.2 of a second back, and on a lap pressured tyres that could pay dividends to them at the end of this Grand Prix.
It's genuinely like he looks like he doesn't have dirty air. Look how close he can follow through that middle sector where other drivers are struggling with the bucket load of understeer that are handed to them courtesy of said dirty air. He can stay right tucked underneath the rear wing of the Haas driver. Maybe he's burning up those front tyres ever so slightly, but he's keeping him right in the game as Loninoba files past Gwatz. That's been a couple of laps coming. The second Red Bull, the one remaining Red Bull, just starting to grapple on his set of hard tyres that he's held since lap 1 of this Grand Prix. Loninoba pitted under the first safety car. Sky Z has been in the wars a little bit, recovered to P7, but he's now making his way down pit road, and this could be Carl taking the net race lead back from the Haas of Formula Kai. DRS flaps open. He's going to be made to go the long way round. We've been here before. This time around the outside for Carl into Tamburello. He does get past the Haas with relative ease.
That he does. Villeneuve will come to tend itself, but I wonder if Carl's going to be able to try and run away here. We saw just how beneficial he can run in that dirty air, and you alluded to it earlier, that it almost looks like it doesn't have an effect on him. I wonder if that's maybe some higher wings running to him. He can follow better through the corners. We've seen it time and time again, especially in F125. If you can run tight through the corners, you get that benefit, but of course you lose so much time in the straights. Imola's got one incredibly long straight, obviously the run down from Ravazza towards Tamburello, if we call that a straight, or take maybe a little bit artistic interpretation of that comment. We have got Matt 2-on-2 though, trying to help out Carl here, and they are close together. I wonder if he'll let his teammate by in the battle for 7th place, or if Matt 2-on-2 is going for glory by himself. Of course, he's under no illusion that he doesn't have to make that move, doesn't have to get out of the way. They're battling for position. He's not a lapped car at this moment in time, but it will be doing his teammate a great justice at the moment, potentially to go on to score some good points for Team Alpine. What are we going to see from Matt 2-on-2 here? To the inside, he's going to continue on, not into the pit lane, but does give his teammate DRS. That could be critical for an extra lap here. Smart teamwork from Matt 2-on-2.
It will, or should at least, not to the end of the straight just yet. Keep Carl ahead of the Haas behind. You were talking about how he has high wings. I'll tell you what, he's not particularly slow in a straight line either, is Carl at the moment. So he's obviously absolutely dialed in the corners, and he's got a setup where he can still be comfortably competitive on the straights, or the kink straights, I think, because there's, I think there's 2 real corners down the main start-finish straight with another slight curve that isn't actually classified. Turn 1 is that slight right as you just come off the grid. Question about Infratic's net position. I think Fabio's in about 8th or 9th place net at the moment, still yet to pit in this race, running those medium tyres that he started the Grand Prix. No, he didn't. He pitted on the opening lap after the safety car, but it was the opening lap, so he's pretty much started the race on those medium tyres.
Yeah, you've got, I think, 4 cars behind him that have pitted if you include Test Will, so probably 8th or 9th if they're able to try and close that gap up with how long the pit lane is. Sky Z's pit as well, just keep an eye on things. The Mercedes went in for a fresh set of the hard tyres, which will also see him through towards the end of the race. The move for the lead, though, as Loninoba gets past Meraki in towards Tamburello and run down towards Villeneuve as well. Gwatz just sitting pretty in 3rd at the moment. He's going to just maybe watch and see how this battle unfolds. And, well, a tale as old as time here. Carl sets the fastest lap of the race. A 1:16. Was that 1:16?
1:16.4, I think it was, if my eyes do not deceive me. It hasn't shown up on the telemetry yet. Loninoba taking the lead of the race, not necessarily the net race lead, because of the undercut that Kai and Carl have got. And as soon as he moves into 1st place, we get the classic Forza lollies appearing in chat.
I'm just looking at our telemetry on my other screen. I wondered why it wasn't showing up as the fastest lap of the race, and I think it's because Grid Jokes has somehow set a 1:14.5 illegally, potentially. And that's what's showing as the fastest lap on our telemetry on the left-hand side. It obviously won't count it in game, but it's pushed out through Team Telemetry, the app that we use to keep track of everything that's going on. So that's why it's not showing for purple on our second screen here. But as you can see on the game screen, and thankful for our producer there, Gareth Allen, who does show that Carl does indeed have the fastest lap, 1:16.458 for the Alpine liveried car.
He has dropped back behind Formula Kai, and now it's going to be roles reversed because Kai and Carl cruising up to the back of the second Haas of Scotty Designs as Meraki takes the lead back from Lolinoba, up 3 places for the Ferrari off the grid. Lolinoba up 7, as is Gwatz after a 5-place grid penalty. But here we could see some more team claims at play. Scotty Designs is not going to have DRS. He's probably not going to fight his teammate too hard, but what does he do when Carl's going to try and blast past as well? They both fly through, and I think Carl's going to try and maybe rocket up the inside. He thinks about it, but for just one moment. And opts to just sit in behind Formula Kai for the time being as they continue to track very, very nicely and take chunks of time out of the leading trio that are yet to stop.
Indeed, Matt, 2-2. Also into the pit lane, hard tyres going on to the other Alpine as well from a set of the mediums that has lasted him 28 laps. Was one of the other cars that pitted on the first lap after that earlier carnage. Went from hards to mediums back onto hards to see this race out. We are just approaching that half race distance, so hards will be absolutely perfect to get to the end. Dan Gilligan's made a position up just ahead of Hoodie Pete, who had pitted a couple of laps ago onto a set of the hard tyres, so he's still running on 28 lap old hard tyres. I think we still hope, praying and begging for a safety car to come out.
Yes, definitely doing the safety car dances, Dan Gilligan. And if we know Dan Gilligan too well, we most definitely do, he'll probably be dancing at some point during the Grand Prix, even if he is in his sim rig. Remember back to Australia, he was trying to scare us all with some jump scares, just suddenly staring at the camera, doing some very interesting facial expressions, and now he's got the lead, he's catching him at quite a rate of knots, so he's now going to deal for the first time with some blue flags, which is going to be an extra challenge for our friend in the presenter box.
Certainly is. I wonder if he's going to be able to try and make his way forth and not hold up the leading pack at the moment too much. We see Meraki completely on his tail as we make our way down towards Tosa. He brakes very sensibly. That's good racecraft from Dan Gilligan there, just allowing the leaders through without any hesitation, without any delay, and allows the leading trio to continue on with their race without getting too involved. And whilst he maybe did it in a bit of an overly dramatic fashion, just stopped on the entry to Tosa, it has been the way that you want to see things done. Kai, though, gets involved with Carl, and that's the Ferrari who've been frantic. They're trying to battle here as they come through Tosa as well, up towards Piratella, down towards Aqua Minerale. Are we going to see any silly moves here? Is Fabio going to try and hold on to the defensive moves? He is. He's holding Carl at bay as they dive down towards Aqua Minerale, and it's climbing back up the hill again. That Alpine chomping it at the bit to try and dispose of the Ferrari. Goes to the inside as they head towards the chicane. Fabio doesn't try and fight it too much. Breaks early, allows the Alpine pass, and we've got some separation for the first time in this race between Kai and Carl. Fabio is acting as the middleman.
Yeah, and Kai's been boxed in twice on this lap so far. He's going to launch it around the outside. Fabio's going to fight this down to the first Ravazza. There's not enough space. Both of them fall off the circuit, and Kai is thrown almost out of contention for the victory because he's out of the 1 second window of Carl in front. Now it's going to be a tall order to try and catch the fastest driver that we've got here in the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. And just to make matters worse, Kai still has to try and dispose of Fabio in the battle for 6th and 7th on the road. He does it eventually. What is the damage though? 1.1 seconds. He's going to have to burn a little bit of ERS if he is going to try and cling onto the coattails of his main rival in front.
I think there'll be a few, interesting words, shall we say, said about that particular encounter as they made their way through the two Ravazzas. Fabio maybe going a little bit overly aggressive on the defending, pushed the Haskell completely out wide in towards the gravel, and I think Kai may have something to say about that in the steward's room at the end of the Grand Prix. Tesswell gets past Ricky though for P11 at the moment, and Ricky drops down to P12, but will try and hang on to the coattails of that Aston Martin. The front three still in formation. We've had a car off the circuit, as we do see, Ricky. I think it's Riccio 3 actually off the circuit as Chappers goes flying past. It's an easy mistake to make through Tamburello. He has got the car going again, and that will be a little bit of a, how do you put this? Knock to the confidence for Riccio 3.
Not been a great return to the circuit where in Season 9 he picked up his best result in the Created Series, a 5th as part of our Monza Imola Italian job double header. And yeah, not a happy hunting ground anymore, Imola, for Riccio 3 as he finds himself in 15th, the last of the points-paying positions. Meraki, Lolinoba and Gwatz continue to soldier on. They've got about 13 seconds over Carl, who has just disposed of Grid Jokes and put another car between himself and Formula Kai. That gap extended to 1.7 seconds. This has worked out absolutely beautifully for Carl. That battling between Kai and Fabio is actually Carl that almost boxed Kai in himself because he tried to dangle the nose of that Alpine down the inside of Tosa. That left Fabio just trying to leave the Alpine a bit of room, and Kai was on the outside having to get out of it because they were 3 wide. Carl could then fly through, and Fabio had to, try and get past around the outside of the first Ravazza and was very much second best in that altercation.
Certainly was. The battle for the front three, though, still remains pretty much consistent. Meraki P1, Lolinoba P2 with Gwatz in third, just hanging on to the coattails of the front two, quite happy just to sit there. We will have to keep an eye further back as Carl tries to make inroads. Grid Joke separates Carl and Kai. We make our way to the forefront of this race. We're over half race distance. We're on the home stretch, folks. We appreciate you sticking with us. Let us know in the live chat, where you're watching from, but also who you think is going to try and get the best of this race. Are you Team Carl, are you Team Kai, or are you maybe voting for another driver? I wouldn't say Dan Gilligan, as he is down in P17, but you can always have hope for that thermonuclear missile that he mentioned earlier.
Stranger things have happened. I think he needs 16 thermonuclear missiles to fall on 16 other drivers in the grid if he is going to end up winning this Grand Prix. Kai getting past Grid Jokes, but look at the gap. It's 2 seconds between Carl and the Haas driver. Carl's about 2.5 seconds a lap faster than the trio in front, who are still yet to make their final stop in this Grand Prix. Working together nicely, Jake, Lolly and Watson first, second and third. And they're going to be effectively turned from the hunted to the hunters in this final stint as they'll bolt on those medium tyres.
Well, we've had a couple of predictions come in. Elite Star Sam says Carl P1. We've got Mihail watching from Romagna. Bruty69 says Karim for the win. Tom Bina, the absolute legend that he is, comes back to watch. He says Gilligan for the win. I think you might want to hedge your bets necessarily for that one as well. Elite Star Sam comes in and says, I hope for Gilligan. I predict a sinkhole appears in everybody else's pit boxes. Well, as we said, funnier things and stranger things have happened here in the F1 Create Series. You can cast your mind back. Somehow Fabio's managed to get podiums this season, so who knows? We might see Dan Gilligan come through and get a race win here. We're over half race distance, on to lap 35 of 63. We are going to head over in the next few moments to see Joseph Black over in commentary corner. Clipper corner, but not quite yet. Tom, where's your prediction going at this stage of the race?
I mean, I can't look past Carl at the moment. Grid Jokes is making his way into the pits to get out of the way of Scotty Designs, but Carl just looks so strong. And the fact that Kai's been caught out in that tussle between himself and Infratic, where Carl was able to blast through very serenely and put 2 seconds between himself and his main rival, it's going to be really difficult for the likes of Jake, Lolly and Gwatz to try and battle their way through, because they're going to have to get past them individually. They're going to all have to get past Kai and then hope that there's enough laps left for them to chase Carl down. Now, if there's a safety car in the next 5 or 10 laps before these guys jump onto the mediums, that changes the complexion of this race to no end.
Certainly does indeed, and of course the question will be how much is that safety car deficit going to really help them to go in towards the pits. We've got 17 seconds essentially between Gwatz and all the way down to Scotty Designs. There's only 7 seconds between Gwatz and the front three, so I don't think even a safety car will necessarily help them too much. We could see Carl bolt on another set of the mediums should he still have them in his arsenal or his weaponry to take his race forward. We could see that as a potential strategy in the back of quite a few drivers' minds, but for the time being we're going to go over to the man who has his ear to the ground, both metaphorically and probably physically, with Joseph Black over in Clipbook Corner.
Always, it's a long way down. I'm 6'2", but we're going to have a look at a couple of clips here. This is why there's a gap built up between Carl and Formula Kai. Just a little bit of contact there as Infratic, I think, locked up into the corner, and that has lost him a decent amount of track position. He's not very happy with that one, and that sees him drop down. And then this is what happened to Skyzy and Infratic earlier. So this is Grid Jokes. Have a look at the chat, by the way. Locking Gang, no more warnings. Instantly hits the back of Infratic. Very apologetic, to be fair to him. But that is exactly what happened to them on lap 23, which means they lost a decent amount of time.
I was going to say, he actually managed to get away scot-free without getting a warning there, and he was going to stand it. And then it came down from the top of the screen and completely proved my theory wrong there. We've got Mahale saying Hayden at least P5 at the end as well for an earlier prediction. So he's down in P. Well, he's up at P8 at the moment, starting all the way down in P20 after getting disqualified from qualifying. So he's had an almighty race as Mr. Hayden Gullis.
Go to the end, 23 laps on his hard tyres, another 25 laps to get to the end. That will be a long old stint on those hard tyres to take them 50 laps almost, considering he started on the softs, got rid of them fairly early in the proceedings, trying to take those hard tyres as far as he can. He's got a Papaya McLaren, though, a chrome and Papaya McLaren to deal with. As not for the first time, Grid Jokes is all over the back of Hayden Gullis. This time it's in the middle sector, and I think Hayden's going to roll out the red carbon for Grid Jokes, you would imagine, into the Variante outer, although the McLaren not seemingly particularly willing to make that move up the inside. He's got to be careful because Fabio's only a second and a half further back. This time Hayden waves the white flag and McLaren soldiers on through.
Certainly does. Gets the move done, and that is probably the best decision for Grid Jokes. I think there was a little bit of mistake as they just crested the hill and made their way through very anti-alta, but down towards Ravazza. No mistakes made from either of our drivers. Fabio, also known as Infratic, making his way through P10 on the back of Hayden Gullis. We watch it with Formula Kai, 3 seconds off the back of Carl, who's in P4. Yellow flags further forward. I think Scott Taylor's had a bit of an offing and finds himself facing the wrong way at the exit of Aqua Minerale. He's got to be very careful here as he comes across the circuit. Wait for the Haas, because that's one of the leading cars. As he comes across, gets the car self-righted, and that is a very well done manoeuvre. Gets the car spun 180, and there we go. Gets going once again. Hasn't been a race, remember, though, for Scott Taylor.
That drops him out of the points-paying positions with a 9-second penalty. Going to be difficult to get inside the top 15. Infratic gets past Hayden Gullis. You can just see it there, although Hayden's going to fight this down into turn 9 of Piratella. What's going to happen as they appear is the Ferrari, I think, with the up and under. Brilliant from Fabio to muscle his way past Hayden. Grid Jokes has fallen behind the pair of them, though. I thought the McLaren had sailed on past. He obviously had the DRS and had the duo behind him absolutely fly past down into the Tamburello chicane, but that's not worked out for the McLaren. They're going to have to deal with both of them once again.
Certainly has indeed. It's going to be Grid Jokes that has to just make that move again, and Fabio's now off into the distance. Obviously Grid Jokes try and do the same thing. Looks to the outside of Ravazza's, quite often a place you don't want to try and go, especially against Fabio, as we saw slightly earlier on with Formula Guy, who gets pushed off the grass and the gravel. Waits his turn though. Does Grid Jokes then make their way through the final corner through turn 20, through 21, and down towards the first set of corners again. DRS comes to the aid of Grid Jokes. Which way would it go? Left or right? Dives to the right-hand side with the outside line for the chicane, but gets the move done even before the braking zone becomes into contention. An excellent move by Grid Jokes, and finds himself up into P8 at the moment. JD Devilnoob has been told he's got a 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane as well.
And in front, Carl has not just caught the leading trio, he's passed the first one, he's arrived on the scene to battle with. Gwat's down into fourth as Carl, the pole sitter, the net race leader, is now effectively about 30 seconds ahead of Meraki, ahead of Lulanoba, and ahead of Gwat. So at what point do these drivers peel off into the pit lane to get shot of those hard tyres? All three of them staying out for the time being, but Carl's going to dispose of the second driver on his hit list around the outside. Both have the DRS flaps open, but Carl has the momentum, he has the confidence in the tyre life, and he blasts his way up into P2. Gwat's is a little bit detached further back, 0.8 of a second off the back of Lolly. Needs to make sure he stays in contention, although that's not the optimal run to take through the Tamburello chicane. Meraki now battling away. Carl thinking, sniffing an opportunity, potentially down in towards Villeneuve for the time being. Will just stay in behind for now.
Absolutely. Can Carl try and get the better of Meraki in towards Toes? A little bit of a lock up there for the Alpine, a little bit cautious on the brakes, trying not to go into the back of the Ferrari car. He makes his way through Tosa up towards Piratella, through Aqua Minerale again. Carl's just got to choose his moment. Of course, all the cars around him, the top four, out of them, Carl is the only one to have headed into the pits. Of course, Lonnie Nober in the first lap, we don't necessarily count that. He's not going to be able to do 62 laps on one set of tyres. But it's the Alpine versus the Scuderia Ferrari in towards Variante Alta for the 39th time in this Grand Prix, into Ravazza as well, potentially waiting for the DRS to come to his aid. But the more he does that, the more he's opening up the opportunity that Formula Kai gets into this train. And you can see on the timing screen that he has done indeed. He's closing within a second of Gwat, and that will enable him to have DRS heading on to lap 40. We've got 24 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Meraki dives into the pits, and that's a very sensible decision from the Scuderia Ferrari the moment that he's under pressure. Into the box, get the hard tyres off, and on with his day.
Ollie stays out, which means he's going to fall behind his Formula Kai also arriving on the scene. This is Gwat's. No, it is not. That's Formula Kai getting past the Williams of, I think that is Hoodie Pete, who is now a lap down. Meraki and Gwat's in the pits. They should rejoin, I think, between Scotty Designs and Grid Jokes in that 8-second gap that has formed between the Haas and the McLaren driver.
Absolutely, and we can probably have a quick check on the tyres though as we go through and we see all the pit stops starting to take effect. Gwat's also into the pits. He's going to have a fresh set of tyres going on to his car down in P7, onto the mediums, as is Meraki. I've had our producer yell no at me in my ear as we try to get the request for Mr. Will Gibson over in the Twitch chat, who asked for the tyres, but it's Meraki and Gwat's both onto a set of the medium tyres to see out this race for the next 24 laps, and certainly within their wheelhouse to make it towards the end of the Grand Prix, Tom.
So what's the gap? Meraki has come out 28 seconds off the back of Carl. He's got 23 laps to try and close up to the Alpine car if he is going to indeed win this Grand Prix and end what is quite a long win drought, has to be said, for the Season 4 champion. Gwat's is a further second back. Lolinoba has stayed out for the time being. I think here we pick them up, and no, he does dive into the pit very late. Formula Kai is going to be released, but that has continuing to leak time to the Alpine of Carl in front. 3.3 seconds now, and you feel like the battle is going to be either between Carl or Meraki and Gwatz if those two drivers on the brand new medium tyres find absolutely incredible race-winning pace in this final stint.
Certainly so. I wonder if getting caught up in that pack in the battle that Kai had with Fabio slightly earlier on in the Grand Prix could have spelled disaster for his hopes and chances. He's going to have to do blistering lap after blistering lap, but we see him, Meraki, the bottom right-hand side of your screens, coming through. He's got a Red Bull for company, and Scotty Designs, by the way. Lottie Nova peels out the pit lane into the midst of the carnage and the chaos, just ahead of Scotty, almost leaving enough room as they headed through Tamburello, but it's Gwatz that stands ahead of Lottie Nova. The undercut has worked once again here at Imola, and it's proving ever powerful. The more and more drivers we see do those pit stops, I wonder how much we're talking about longevity here, though.
Absolutely, but now we know where we sit, everybody. 22 laps to go of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. These guys are 28 seconds off the back of Carl, and they now know the equation. They've got to be just a little over a second a lap faster than the Alpine, who has 15 laps on his hard tyres that he will, of course, be taking to the end of the Grand Prix. Sky found himself in a really strong position with a slight alternate strategy to some other drivers. Finds himself on the podium place, but should get relegated fairly quickly. But a 6th place for Sky on his return. I think he'll take that and grab it with both hands. Meraki 1.2 off the back. What's trying to cling onto the coattails of the Ferrari. There's an opportunity here if Jake can be very, very efficient with his hunting down of Carl to maybe end that win drought that we just spoke about.
Certainly so. Can he try and capitalise further forward? I think a lot of drivers will be hoping for that safety car, because 22 seconds is almost a second a lap to try and pull forward for a lot of our drivers here. They have the opportunity to do so, but you've got to bank and rely on mistakes from cars further afield. You see Sky just incredibly off the back of Formula Kai. And if you look actually at the track map at the bottom right hand side of your screens, we can see Meraki just making their way through Tamburello at the moment. Carl, let's just put it into contention, heading through Acqua Minerale, just cresting over the top of it with Kai very closely in tow. There is an incredible degree of separation between our front two and the leading, or the chasing pack, should I say, that stands in 4th, 5th, 6th respectively. Grid Jake's even further back, but it's a gap that they're going to have to try and pull forward for.
Still a long way to go, of course. I know we're on lap 42, but 63 laps to be completed. On the previous tour, Meraki was 1.4 seconds faster than Carl. If he keeps that up, he will catch him before the end of the Grand Prix. The only problem is the Ferrari has sat underneath the rear wing of the Mercedes of Sky the entirety of lap number 43, which is going to be slightly compromising him and making his task just that little bit harder than it needs to be. But the trade-off is, of course, with the helping hand of DRS. He will gain some time back down on the run into Tamburello as he passes the Mercedes.
Certainly will. It's going to be a close fought battle here. Sky will be trying to defend where he stands at the moment, of course, on 15 lap old hard tyres, so won't necessarily have the legs compared to Meraki, who's on brand new medium tyres, 3 laps to their name. And Gwatz and Lottie Nova will probably try and share in the sentiments. They run down towards Tamburello once again. Sky dropping 2 positions there, and I think we'll have Lottie Nova for company in the next few seconds. 10-second penalty for Scott Taylor for ignoring blue flags. That's an interesting one we haven't seen in a very long time, and he's into the barrier. Scott Taylor well and truly out of this race. Bert Mylander, on the other hand, has come into contention.
Safety car, here we come, and that brings everybody else right close together. And that eradicates the gap that Meraki, Gwatz and Sky and Lottie Nova had to try and close down to catch Carl and to catch Kai out in front. Dan Gilligan is apparently in the pit lane, although he is out there on the circuit, which is not ideal at all. Scotty Designs has left the session. He's in the pit lane as well. This is slightly concerning because the game's seemingly having a funny 5 minutes. There we go. Dan Gilligan does appear in the pit lane and will be strapping on a new set of tyres. But this just makes for a very interesting race now. Carl and Formula Kai will be afforded the opportunity to bolt on a new set of tyres. You would think Meraki, Gwatz, Sky and Lottie Nova all going to put on a new set of the medium tyres as well, if of course they have them in their back pockets.
Just doing some mental maths here. We're, lap 20? We've got 20 laps to go here of this Grand Prix, I think, if that is what my... something like that. So, of course, we've got to remember no intentional safety cars allowed in the last 15 laps. So Scott Taylor well and safety clear within that threshold. And I think now would be a lovely, appropriate time to have a chat with Dan Gilligan, who's managed to get a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. So this could be an excellent time to track him in. I'll give him a little bit of notice that we're going to go speak to him. But we will speak to Joseph as well something later on just to get some clarification to what has happened with everything else and recreate that beautiful crash from Scott Taylor, because we haven't seen a crash like that in the Create Series for a long while. Quite often drivers will crash out a little bit calm and collected. That was a smack into the wall if ever I've seen one.
That was maximum commitment, wasn't it, into the wall from Scott Taylor? But everybody, you'll be delighted to hear that Dan Gilligan is here alongside us in the commentary box. Unfortunately, though, Dan, we join you as you've just picked up a drive-through penalty.
Yes, I didn't. I may have forgotten that you do have to drive to a delta under safety car in this game, so I have kind of it a little bit. But that's fine. That's fine. It just, it means that my team will get to see the tyres in good condition as I drive past slowly in the pit lane.
Yeah, we've just seen as well that Kai's got a 10-second penalty for a collision under the safety car, which is not ideal at all. So maybe your tactics of some bad luck, be that a penalty. And Lolin Ober's got one as well for ignoring yellow flag. So it's all kicking off at the front. Dan, you've still got a chance.
I've got a chance! This has been it's been an exercise in why sims are very different to each other. Like, my usual sim is not the F1 game, so it's jumping into this for the first time. There's a lot of learning. I've gotten better over the course of the race. I'm not losing the back end nearly as much, even though I had 40 something lap old tires on. But it's good fun. And the guys in the VC, those who are talking at least, everyone who's not, well, they smell of sweat a little bit. But in terms of all of those who are talking in the VC, they're all fantastic individuals, and they should all be applauded for their comedic entertainment value that they are bringing you, the audience.
Absolutely. So, and just before we let you go back to enjoying the racing, Dan, first of all, manage your delta, just be careful with it. But has there been any kind of standout moment from you in the driving seat? Has there been anything that you want to maybe bring to the viewers' attention they may have missed from a broadcast angle?
From a broadcast angle, well, having not seen obviously what you guys have been able to see on the broadcast, I can tell you that some of the scrapping down here at the back, whilst it's not been very often, it has still been quite fun. At least. And so, people have been able to get themselves into a position where they can actually fight one another and go side by side in certain areas. But then, some people, won't name any names, but some people have had some a bit of hot moments under the collar, shall we say, with what's been going on. So yeah, things which you may not be aware of if you've just been watching the mainstream.
Amazing stuff. Dan, unless Tom's got any further questions for you, we'll let you get back to the back of the pack here and we'll throw it over to the corner.
Oh, good. We wish you the best of luck, Dan, to try and bring home some points.
Well, it's a far cry, but we'll try and make it happen for the chat. So, if anybody in the Twitch chat, one in chat if you think that I can snatch 1 point at the end of this.
Well, we'll throw Dan back into the pool of creators. Hopefully we won't have the safety car in this lap. Just going to keep an eye on that as they make their way through Ravazza. Carl onto a fresh set of hard tyres, which is curious. Didn't opt for a set of mediums. Maybe only had 0 sets left until the end of the Grand Prix. But I think as long as Carl is ready... sorry, not Carl. As long as Joseph Black is ready for us over in Clipbook Corner, we'll wait confirmation on that. We are going to throw over to him in the next few moments. Or we're going to throw over regardless to Joseph. What have you got for us?
Right. Well, I've got the 2 point of views of the incident, which is why Formula Kai and Lolinova both have penalties now. And well, it was certainly it was certainly interesting. I think it's fair to say. So Formula Kai went off the circuit, tried to come back on, literally right in front of Lolinova. And, well, he picked up a 10-second time penalty, and then Lolinova, just a little bit later on, picked up a similar time penalty, which was not ideal for him. And, well, I appear to have lost the moment of the clip. Yeah, there we go. He was in, I believe he was in AI when he drove past Formula Kai, and that was the reason he got that 10-second penalty. So, it's just unfortunate for him, but that's just the way it goes.
Sometimes it's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. Joseph, thank you so much for that behind-the-scenes information. And not quite sure, I know we've seen what's happened with our own eyes. I'm still not quite sure what led Kai to going off there. Obviously, the AI has gone past and got blue flags for the penalty for Lolinova, who's now dropped all the way down to P13. I believe he's got into the box for another time. He has indeed, to serve that penalty and to put on a fresh set of the medium tyres. So, a bizarre set of circumstances that have led to that carnage and that chaos here, as we see Bert Mylander just making sure everybody is aligned and correctly facing. We've got, I believe, JD Devil and Hoodie Pete just making their way around for one final lap just to get themselves back in chronological order. unless we see an incredible bit of pace from them. And I think Dan Gilligan trying to worm his way through past Grid Jokes here. Not quite sure if he's going to be able to get it done. A little bit of contact between the two there as Dan Gilligan, maybe not the cleanest overtake. But we do see all of our drivers, and we do try and encourage them to allow drivers to unlap themselves. This obviously isn't something that is necessarily built into the system, built into the game, but we do try and encourage our creators to allow them to get their unlapped cars past. So we are seeing that in action here. And we did see also comments in the chat during the moments of talking to Dan, but also talking to Joseph over in Clipper Corner as to why Scott Taylor crashed out like that. It is, well, let's just say more encouraged in the Creator Series here. Obviously from a content perspective, and there we go, that's a beautiful bit of sportsmanship from MSkyZ, allows Dan Gilligan past, and hopefully will get past by the end of the lap.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. It would be so much easier if this was a feature that was actually in the game, that the lap cars would be able to unlap themselves, and we didn't have to go through this farce of drivers having to go onto the grass to let the lap car come through, and that's obviously what caused the penalty that Kai still has and Lolly's pitted to get rid of. And I mean, you're kind of down if you do, down if you don't. Lolly was obviously AFK, we saw it there. Maybe he was just on the bog trying to relieve himself just before the final 15 laps of the Grand Prix, and then was just a little bit unlucky there, wasn't it? Kai, off the circuit, and the AI flying through, and then there was the contact made. Completely unavoidable from both, really, just met in the middle, and then that's what kind of happens when the game doesn't allow that kind of thing to happen.
A beautiful bit of sportsmanship from both Kai, Carl and Meraki, all of them just diving into the grass. The gravel as Dan spins under the safety car. Safety car is coming in this lap.
He's stuck there now.
He is absolutely stuck there now. It's too late. He potentially was going a little bit too hot in towards the very anti-outer chicane just at the top of the hill. I think he's still going to try and let Carl past him, or get past Carl. Carl into the grass the go. I think he's managed to do it. But alas, that is probably one of the funniest things we've seen from a broadcast perspective. Dan Gilligan not only spinning during normal race conditions, but also spinning when he's being allowed through. But for the race here, we restart on lap 48 of 63. It's going to be Carl that leads with Kai in behind. But of course, with that 10-second penalty to his name, as we round the final corner, it's going to be green flag flying to restart on lap 48. Crumbs across the line, and we're back under racing conditions once again. Meraki's got caught out though. Watts right onto the rear of the Scuderia Ferrari. Skyzy, Grid Dosing and Fratic having a battle further back, and Fratic trying to hold off or defend against Scotty Designs, by the way, in toward the first of the chicanes. Everybody making it through nice and calmly. It's going to be a question of who's going to hold out, who's going to go for a move. The Alpine of Matt 212, almost losing the car further behind, manages to get it facing the right direction, but that'll be a brown trouser moment for the team based in Enstone.
A 3-second penalty to boot, as well as Lonova trying to make up for lost time, dispatches his teammate Hayden Gullis down to the toes of hairpin and returns it to P11. Still, of course, a lot of work to do, but thanks to the fact that he doesn't have a penalty, he's going to gain 6 places pretty much straight away if he continues at the rate that he's going right now. Carl with 6/10 of a second in hand. Meraki was very, very lucky. Left standing on the restart, had an absolutely abhorrent run coming out of the second Ravazza, but keeping it on the straight and narrow and keeping it just about in the right ballpark, and he's still got an opportunity to win this race if, of course, he can get past the Haas of Kai. Carl trying to stretch his legs out in front, though, as the gap just extending ever so slightly.
Certainly is. It's going to be a question of longevity here. Of course, equal tyres amongst the front 5. Everyone all the way down to MSkyZ on equal lap harder tyres, medium tyres on Grid Jokes, Fabio, Scotty Designs, by the way. Everybody around that sort of playing field, and Tess will as well, to note on the medium tyre. We've still got yellow flag in the first sector. Ignore that on the timing beam at the moment. We see battle here. Ricky 03, that 2-on-2 being pushed very wide as Lottie Nova tries to wriggle their way through as well. Gets past Ricky 03, who is racing on home soil here this afternoon. Hayden von der Gullis sat in P13 with Chappers just nipping and tucking in behind as well. It's a 4-way scrap for 11th place, and you very rarely see that, but it's very fair racing still.
Deja vu for Lolly, because he passed Ricky and Hayden on the previous lap, so something's obviously occurred somewhere for him, that he's dropped back behind his teammate and the Williams driver. Dan Gilligan, no Dan, we can't believe it, 3-second penalty, hasn't served the drive-through yet. Hope he remembers the drive-through, otherwise he'll be getting disqualified and he'll be joining us back in the comms box slightly earlier than we would have anticipated.
I'm assuming he has served the drive-through. No, he hasn't served the drive-through already.
Maybe
no, he has. He has served the drive-through. Yeah, because he was ahead of these creators. If you remember, on the safety car restart, he's now dropped behind them, so that would explain why he sat between Hayden Gullis and JD Debenham on circuit. But of course, he is one lap down compared to everybody else on the field. So that's where he stands. Carl with another fastest lap of the race. He's proving why he is one of the quickest drivers at the Imola circuit at the moment, make his way down in towards the first few corners and looking to try and have the perfect weekend.
Emphatic getting past grid jokes. These two have been joined at the hip for pretty much the entirety of this Grand Prix, trading blows all the way through the first 50 laps of this race, and I think they'll continue to do so for the remaining 40. Here comes Matt 2-on-2 though. He's thinking about a move down the inside of Villeneuve. Surely not. The answer was no, but test wheel gets a little bit wobbly in the second part. Is there an opportunity for Matt to be brave on the brakes into the toes ahead? He's got to be careful because Scotty Designs is all over the back of the Alpine as well, and watch for Lolanova driving with a little bit of red mist potentially after the penalty that he served, but trying to get back into the fray. But look at this battery being burned by Scotty Designs, and from attack to defence is Matt 2-on-2 getting mugged down into the Piratella, but we continue to cascade down the hill as Scotty Designs. It's not finished. Matt around the outside, 3-second penalty. Second one he picks up in as many laps. Onto the gravel goes the Alpine as they interlock as they come through Aqua Minerale. Who's going to take the high round? I think it is Scotty Designs that has just taken 9th place back.
Certainly is indeed. Wheel locking as they made their way up the top of the hill as they dove down into Aqua Minerale. It was fair racing between the two of them. I think it was rightly so that Matt 2-on-2 might have backed out. He went through the gravel but did find himself still on the back of Scotty Designs, one of only two drivers to try and run the one stop here this afternoon. Both of them starting on the hard tyres, himself and Dan Gilligan, as we approach on towards lap 51 of 63. They're ever increasing upward. Lolly Nova trying to make not one but two positions up here as he goes to the inside. Riccio 3 wants to do a similar thing, can only get the one place done on Scotty Designs, by the way, but Lolly Nova, an audacious move there as we have yellow flags, and if any guesses what happened there, it's Dan Gilligan and the two Ravazzas.
Picks up another penalty now, 13 seconds, which at this rate would see him tumble outside of the top 5. Meraki, Season 4 champion, still in contention. M Sky Z, not a champion, but is a previous race winner here in 5th at the moment, but 1.1 seconds off the back of Gwatz. Needs to try and find a little bit more performance if he's going to challenge for a race victory, but will inherit a podium, which I think will be the first podium Sky Z picks up in the Creator Series for nearly 2 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming for M Sky Z that he hasn't necessarily had the greatest of results in races gone by. Of course, taking a bit of a hiatus from the F1 Creator Series after the end of Season 6 or Season 7, took a step back from full-time racing, stepped in as a reserve, and has done a couple of races in events gone by, most notably Las Vegas, where he collided with his old rival of Tim Murdoch, and both of them ended up crashing out at what was a picture-perfect display of carnage and chaos, as we saw wheels flying left, right and centre. But for the here and now, he stands in P5. And I think, as you said, a distinct chance of getting a podium with the penalties that present themselves in front of him. And we do see Lolly Nova just leading this train of cars. Testwell, Matt 2-on-2 and Riccio 3, Scotty Designs and Chappers and Hayden Gullis all involved. It's a 6-way battle for P8 on the circuit. This is an incredible train that we're seeing, and Hayden Gullis sat just behind Chappers. That's going to be Matt 2-on-2 off into the gravel, gets the car pointed the right way again, and that's such an unfortunate incident. I wonder if he's just been pushed off slightly wide, or if that's a self-made mistake.
Yeah, looks self-inflicted because he was a long way off the circuit. Hands Hayden Gullis a plate, and he will most certainly lap that one up. Formula Kai just struggling to stay within 1 second of Carl out in front, but Meraki not really putting him under any pressure. Dan getting with a 10-second penalty for corner cutting. Must have absolutely straight lined one of the chicanes out there, because that is quite the hefty penalty to pick up. Gwat's still very close to the back of Meraki. M Sky Z still around 1.3 seconds off the back of the top 4. Fabio, at the moment at least, is keeping grid jokes at arm's length. This Roland Ober in 8th place. A man on a mission, 4.7 seconds to the back of the McLaren. I would not be surprised if he still ends up finishing inside the top 5.
Absolutely. It's one of those moments that I think Dan Gilligan, did go across Tavarella at pretty much straight line speed. It looks like himself and Hoodie Pete might be having a good old bit of a laugh and a scrap between the two of them. Stat from Meraki, Season 4 champion, hasn't been on the podium in a Creator Series event on F1 25, and he was being mocked by his teammate Fabio slightly earlier on in his stream when the track was being announced. Fabio claiming that he's got 2 podiums this season. Jake quite infamously biting back that he's got a World Drivers' Championship to his name, so maybe needed to pipe down ever so slightly. But we do see Fabio down in P7, so not necessarily on podium positions here this afternoon, but his teammate well and truly in potential, not only for P2 on the circuit once penalties are applied, but could even go for the race win should Carl make a mistake in the next 10 laps.
should he make a mistake, but he's going to have to rely on that case unless he can get past Formula Kai somehow and somewhen, and that also relies on him not getting overtaken by Gwotz, because the Red Bull, despite having that 3-second penalty, does just look a little bit quicker than Jake at this stage, and we saw it earlier on. Jake didn't have the pace of Carl and of Kai in the opening stint, even with the tyre difference. He was on the hards, the leading duo were on the medium, and still seemingly just lacking that cutting edge of pace at the moment. The Season 4 champion under a little bit of pressure from the Red Bull, even though all ending well, he will still finish ahead of Gwotz.
He certainly will. Penalties will apply left, right, centre. Fabio finally gets past Grid Jokes as well as they make their way in towards Tamburello for the 54th time in this Grand Prix. It's been, a long race, I think, to put it politely. There's certainly one that our drivers will be looking forward to getting to that checkered flag, and we watch the other Scuderia now trying to challenge up for the race win, potentially, or at least getting himself involved with a better placed podium. Tesla Lolly Noba having a good scrap with Ricky 03 just sitting in behind, almost a little bit wide there for the Williams teams. They make their way in towards Tosa. Lolly Noba just sat on the back of Teswell. I think Lolly Noba has had a race to forget for himself as well. Won't necessarily be feeling the support of the home fans as much as he would have liked. There's been carnage, there's been chaos, maybe a few mistakes left, right and centre. Certainly one that he'll be wanting to try and improve on come next weekend.
Yeah, we'll be feeling unlucky as well with the contact that ended up getting in the 10-second penalty under the safety car that leaves him in this position, 13th at the restart. He seems to be taking one step forward and then a couple of steps back, because he got ahead of Test Will, now dropping back behind the Aston Martin and losing a second to the likes of Infratic and Grid Jokes in front. Just maybe not quite at the level, driving at the level that he was in the early stages of the Grand Prix, just because of the frustration that Lolly has at this stage, because he's also in a very rich vein of form. Winner 2 weeks ago, third last week in Monza. This will be just a little bit of a bump back down to earth.
Certainly will. And sometimes you need them as a racing driver to try and centre yourself and bring yourself down to earth. And we've said that time and time before. Lolly Noba now does get the move done on Testwell, up to P8 on the circuit, but it's got an incredible deficit all the way up to Grid Jokes, 4.8, nearing 5 seconds now, as you see the McLaren just heading through Villeneuve, just before Tosa. And someone's saying, where's all the boards at? I've actually only just noticed that someone has destroyed all of the brake marker boards throughout the course of the circuit. And I wonder who has been mischievous enough to do something like that.
As we had the styrophobia wildcard thrown in. Nobody told me about that one, it has to be said. I think it must have been Daniel Gilligan, and I think, a lot of people confirmed that it perhaps would have been. And Elite Stars Sam in the chat has got a very good point. Dan, I don't know how many penalties he's got, and I don't know what the limit is as well, but surely he might be quite close to getting disqualified at this rate.
I believe he's got 25 seconds worth of penalties, according to I might be wrong on that. If we
That's
can
a
get them up on the
drive-through.
screen. I have no idea what he's got. He's got 25 seconds worth of penalties. I think the limit on a 100% race is around about a minute worth of penalties. So he should be fairly safe.
Yeah, I've seen upwards of 50 seconds before. I haven't seen anyone go over 60, so that might be the limit there. As we still see Carl, who is for the first time a little bit under some pressure from Formula Kai, but Kai with a terrible run through Tamburello. Was that the invitation that Jake potentially needs, the impetus that he needs to try and battle for the race win? Well, he's not particularly close down in towards Villeneuve, and we will retain the status quo in the formation in this quartet, the lead out in front.
Certainly will. It's a four-way battle for the top spots at the moment. Elite Star Sam probably got those pens from destroying brake marker boards. Wouldn't surprise me at all. The game does love to give the track limits penalties if you're just putting a few wheels off the circuit and maybe just trying to have a little bit of contact with styrophobia. Of course, that was one of Dan Gilligan's, let's just say, infamous moments in the F1 Create Series, having the idea to destroy brake marker boards. I'm sure he's just trying to recreate what he started, that so many of the creators loved. I'll let them comment on that one in their own free time. We see Carl still happy just controlling the lead in this race, and I mean, if he turns around and retires at the end of this Grand Prix, he's had a perfect weekend. He's had the fastest lap of the race, he's got Inter's pole, he's got pole, he wins the race. There's quite literally nothing you can do better unless we had a sprint weekend.
Maybe cross the line in first, which is looking a little bit touch and go now as Dan dives into the pit lane. I'm not sure what this is, maybe to try and go for the faster lap, but Formula Kai is going to take the race lead off the hands of Carl for the first time in about 35 laps. That Haas is now leading the charge, and that just changes things ever so slightly, because Meraki is now in prime position potentially to try and make a late race assault at that Alpine to snatch the win away. Meraki hasn't even finished on the podium this season, and for a former champion that's got some really consistent pace, that is going to be quite an alarming statistic. He should end that terrible run of form in Season X, barring any whoopsies in the closing stages. But there is now an opportunity that he maybe wouldn't have thought to win this Grand Prix.
I think he's had that vision reaffirmed as he sees Carl right in front of him. The separation between Formula Kai and himself, a little bit of a wobble, I think, for Riccio 3, just making his way through Tosa, climbing up towards the top of the hill, towards Piratella, down towards Aqua Minerale. But Meraki has had that sense of maybe the race win could be coming his way. That gap that was prevented by Formula Kai could be out of the way now. We see Carl actually dropping time to Formula Kai, about 9.5 tenths of a second. He's got to be careful if he doesn't fall out of DRS range. I wonder if the tyres are starting to go off, but they're unequal. They're 13 laps old. Maybe it's a bit of a miscalculation here by Carl, because he's got to be careful, because that DRS detection zone is actually before you head down towards the two Ravazzas. The rear wing does open for Carl, though, so it will give him a little bit of saving grace. They run down towards the first couple of corners, but Carl has got his work cut out here. It's not as clean and dry as we once thought it could be.
Huge alarm bells would have been going off there when Kai was disappearing off into the distance and almost dropped Carl out of DRS range, and that could have been the race right there with 6 laps to go. If Carl fell out of the 1 second window, Jake's got some pretty decent straight line speed, and that would have been a golden opportunity for Meraki to try and take second on the road, the net lead of this Grand Prix. But as we are, Carl just about keeping it within 1 second as they cut the DRS detection point and holding on to the net race lead for the time being. And now Carl getting a shift on as well, and it's Jake this time under pressure to try and stay within the DRS range. They've dropped Guots, who's now 2 seconds off the back of the Ferrari. It's still just about a 2-horse race, unless Jake falls away now as well.
I wonder if Carl was maybe just charging up some battery to try and regain that position as they headed down at the exit of Variante Alta down towards Ravazza, and that could have been what caused him just to drop off a little bit too much, because he now is close right back up towards Formula Kai. He'll have maybe some battery charged up as well as they round through the second Ravazza through 20 and 21 to come across the line. Start lap 60. We've got 5 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and the better Carl has between separation between himself and Meraki, the better for his race situation at the moment. Equally so, he could be trying to hold on to the DRS from Formula Kai, because that could be keeping him in contention for the race win. He knows that he doesn't need to win this on the circuit. The 10-13 second penalty that Formula Kai has to his name will win it for him. Yellow flag in the first sector. One of the Red Bulls has gone off. That's Guots into the barrier. That's so unfortunate for the Red Bull. He's been running so well throughout the course of this race. Started down in P10, made his way up to 4th, and it looks like just a mistake as they exited through Tamburello, and it's so easy to do.
It's thrown away a podium as well, because Infratic was over 3 seconds off the back of the Red Bull, and that's so disappointing for Guots. Would have been his second podium of the season, but as it is, I think it's just going to be finishing in the minor points-paying positions. Not good for Red Bull's constructors' charge. There's a McLaren up there, 2 Ferraris inside the top 4 now. Infratic is now going to inherit that 3rd place, courtesy of the 13 seconds worth of penalties that Formula Kai has looming over his head.
Absolutely, it's going to be close. I don't quite know which way this race is going to go now. Guots is going to be absolutely fuming with what's happened in the last few laps, and as we head on to lap 64 to go in this Grand Prix, it's going to feel like it's going to be an eternity for the drivers up towards the top. Meraki, though, will have DRS. It doesn't look like Carl's wing is open. No, it has. Just managed to catch the light through the separation. They headed down towards turn 2, 3 and 4. Carl is hanging on by an absolute hair's breadth here.
This is tense now, isn't it? Because it's not a foregone conclusion, as it was maybe 25 laps ago, that Carl would win this race, because if he doesn't get back within the 1 second, which he isn't at the moment, he was very lucky that he got the DRS on the previous lap. Jake surely has to try and snatch this opportunity, take it with both hands, because he's almost being handed the opportunity here on a plate from Formula Kai, who's trying to bolt off into the distance.
He certainly is. I think Kai just wants to try and not get involved with this battle for the race win. He knows that he's got 13 seconds worth of penalty to his name. He knows he's not going to win this. He might even drop all the way down, probably to P6, P7, if my maths is anywhere near correct at the moment. And he just wants to get out of there, not get involved with the scrap that is going to be between Carl and Meraki, who is still looking, well, both technically still looking, to get their first win and their first podium of the season. But let's not forget, Carl has done 1 race in the Creator Series, and that is today.
Absolutely, and what a debut it would be if he can pick up the race win. 0.8 of a second as we come through the Ravazzas. We saw earlier that Carl was able to follow so closely despite the dirty air. Jake doesn't quite have that advantage, and he's almost fallen out of a second. Carl doesn't have the DRS. The Ferrari does, which will see Meraki cruise up to the back of the Alpine once more. But Carl is going to have to get his skates on if he's going to get back within the 1 second window. I think without the DRS, he's going to have to do this all by his own doing with 3 laps remaining.
Yeah, Meraki gained about half a second with the DRS usage in towards the second corner through Tamburello. They will run. It's all about a case of keeping it clean for Carl here. He can hold Meraki at bay. because, of course, it looks like he's got the better cornering speed and has worked out through the course of this race so far. But Meraki will be chomping at the bit, actively trying to get involved and get that win, because he knows just how close he is to getting that first win of the season. All equal on tyres, on the top three at the moment. 17 laps on a set of the hard tyres towards the end. Map 212 adding a 3-second penalty to his collection from this race. We've got 2.5 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Is it going to go the way of the Alpine? Is it going to go the way of the Ferrari? It is well and truly a 2-horse race here in Imola.
So many different storylines that we could be talking about. Will it be Carl winning on debut? Or will it be Meraki winning for the first time since the Las Vegas Grand Prix in Season 8? That's about 6 months ago. The last time that the Season 4 champion picked up a race victory, and that was in a battle in the rain in a 50% double header at Vegas towards the end of Season number 8.
Certainly was, and it's been a completely different set of circumstances here in Imola. Completely dry from start to finish. Yes, there's got quite a few drivers missing for various reasons. We alluded to that earlier as we see Fabio and MSkyZ having a bit of a scrap between themselves. MSkyZ getting up to 4th place on the circuit, which will be promoted, I'm almost certain, to 3rd and a podium for himself after the penalty applied to Formula Kai. But Fabio still has an opportunity to try and get back with a lap and a half to go. Of course, we alluded to earlier that a lot of names still missing. Yellow flag in the 3rd sector. That's going to be the kick Sauber of JD Delvenu, but he gets the car going again just as he's climbing out of the Aqua Minerale set of corners. We watch Formula Kai here coming up to the back of the McLaren. That's going to be Dan Gilligan, I have a feeling, getting involved here. He's going to have to try and move out of the way of our race leaders. We'll get blue flags. And we run down towards the final lap here. Carl and Meraki still at each other's ends. It is half a second between the Scuderia Ferrari and the Alpine. Now close enough potentially for Meraki to try and pull away. But has Dan Gilligan just given Carl DRS? It would have been incredibly close as they came through the detection point. We'll have a wait and see as they come up towards the line. Has Carl been saved by the saving and falling McLaren? I think he might have. You can see the rear wing open for Carl.
Well, not for the first time and probably not for the last time we see somebody giving DRS onto the last lap that might see them win this Grand Prix. Meraki won't be pleased about that. Dan Gilligan definitely got out of the way, but I think it was almost a case of wrong place, wrong time for the McLaren, and that has afforded Carl the opportunity to just keep his head in the final 3 kilometres of this race and pick up an incredible victory on debut. And it's also not guaranteed that Kai falls out of the podium places either, because MSkyZ battling away with Infratic for 4th and 5th on the road. They are just inside 13 seconds, 12.5 seconds the gap between SkyZ and Kai. If these two battle too hard, they're not even going to finish on the podium, as Infratic, I think, bails out of that one.
Yeah, they're going to keep falling down the order, but of course we mentioned earlier it's been outlawed in the Crate Series that you can't drop back, help your teammate that is going for the race win. Of course that hasn't happened here. It was pure coincidence that Dan Gilligan has dropped all the way back, and further out Carl is 1.3 seconds off the back of Formula Kai. He won't need the DRS as they head down towards the checkered flag. Meraki though on the rear. Is he going to try and send a move into the 2 Ravazzas? I think he's too far back on this occasion. They'll come round the 2nd Ravazza. It will be Formula Kai that wins it on the track, but after penalties apply, it's Clipbook Carl, who's had a monster of a weekend. He's got into pole position. He sets the fastest lap, and now he wins the Grand Prix as well. What a weekend for the new reservist that has his first ever race in the F1 Creator Series.
Who would have thought it? On debut, slams in a pole position lap, sees off the reigning champion, and then wins it 63 laps later. Jake misses out on his first Creator Series victory in 6 months by half a second. And Formula Kai, we said about it, MSkyZ does not finish on the podium. He misses it out by 3/10, and Kai, I think he'll feel like that's just rewards. Yes, he got the 3-second penalty, but the 10-second penalty was undeserved, and he does still at least finish inside the top 3.
Formula Kai still getting a podium after getting 13 seconds worth of penalties is a story that I think he'll be writing home about for many years to come, because that's absolutely incredible. MSkyZ missing out, as you said, by just the barest of margins, 0.3 of a second. Fabio finishes 5th, Ricky 03 and 6th, Watson 7th, and we have donuts by Hoodie P. His now home Grand Prix, of course, lives over in Italy with his family. He does do donuts on the line. We see JD Delvenu running up towards the checkered flag as well. Will there be a little bit of contact? No. Makes it cleanly across the line. Same can't be said for the Alpine and Map 212, who found himself rather stranded in the barrier. And it will be 15th place for JD Delvenu as he comes across the line. And we'll have you complete order in the next few moments. But just for now, enjoy the podium with our reservist and the first time racer of Karl Peranic at the top step.
Flipbook commentator pole sitter, race winner. That's quite the message that he sends to quite a lot of people out there, isn't it?
Certainly does. It's on the same level of to the boys and girls at home, dream what you dream because you can do it. And he's come in at the first time of asking. Not only won the race, but he's got the fastest lap in qualifying and the fastest into pole lap as well. It was a dominant display, shall we say, from start to finish. The way that he's managed to come through and perform this afternoon. You can see there the fastest lap actually went to Formula Kai in the end. It was nabbed away at the final time of asking. But race winner of Carl, driver of the day goes to Hayden von der Gullis. Most overtakes to MSkyZ, the cleanest driver. Hayden Gullis retaking his favourite award that he loves to brag about. But Carl takes your top spot, Meraki in second, Formula Kai in third with MSkyZ in fourth. Fabio finishes fifth with Ricky 03 in sixth. Watts in seventh, Ollie Nober in eighth, Grid Jokes 10th, ninth, and Hayden Gullis in 10th. Scotty Designs, by the way, he finishes in 11th place. Chappers in 12th, 13th is Testwell, Matt 212 in 14th, 15th goes to JD Devilnoob, and Hoodie Pete finishes in 16th with Daniel Gilligan in 17th. And our DNFs from this afternoon, Scott Taylor, Safso, and Karim 7T. But I think it's about time that we throw you back over to your presenting team, and of course, Joseph over in Clipbook Corner.
Yes, I mean, that was a
Fantastic.
very, very good race. But, well, hello, Dan. Welcome. Talk us through
Hello.
your race and how many penalties you got first.
A number. An inconceivable number. Too many, frankly. But some of that was just overdriving the car. Some of that was a bit of bad luck. I remember at the very start of the race when there was the enormous crash, which I hope that the broadcast had a better view than I did, that I got hit up the back during all of that, which then gave me a penalty for some reason. Call me an old traditionalist, but I feel like if you're hit up the back, then you're not at fault in an accident. But there we go. So that was one of them. Then was the drive-through, which was just me not paying attention, really, to be honest with you. But yes, I mean, it was good fun. I mean, as you may or may not have seen on the broadcast, when we couldn't quite get me unlapped properly after the safety car, and we sort of knew that then that was the race toast, I then decided, do you know what? Maybe we just inject a little bit of extra spice into this. Let's start getting rid of all the brake markers on the circuit and see if that affects the top guys. And did it? That's the question.
Well, we knew it. I think all of myself, our producer Gareth Allen, and also I believe Tom called it on commentary as well. But speaking of, just before we get anything else done, are we able to bring up the clip from Carl about the incident, just so you can watch it back? Because of course you'd love to watch it back, Dan. So Carl let you through, and everyone was very happy.
Yes. And then, I basically thought, well, this is the time to pass the safety car. And then the safety car, it being just whatever it is, it then just sort of turned towards me and I panicked. I slammed the brakes, locked the rears, and off into the grass I went. So that was fun.
It certainly looked fun. But, I mean, what else did you pick up? Because obviously you dropped back through the field. So you watched quite a few battles, it seemed like.
I saw a few here and there. I mean, it was it was a good race, but I feel like from all of the talking that I hear from the other drivers in the VC, that maybe the more interesting stuff perhaps was going on up towards the front. There was I think for those of us towards the back, there was a bit more laughing. For me, towards the beginning, it was trying to chase down Hoodie Pete and try and have a good scrap with Pete, who obviously we all love very much here at the Grid Series. And every time I would get closer, I'd get too excited. And then, not really knowing the game all that well, I'd spin up the rears and round we would go. So learnings for if there is a next time. There's probably not going to be a next time. But someone who will have a next time is our driver who finished in third place here today, and that is Jake, who is going to appear in our commentary box any moment now. And there he is. Hello, Jake. How was that race for you?
It was fun. It was fun, honestly. Like I locked in at the end. It's a shame to see the race decided by the back marker slowing down and giving the lead of the DRS again, but it I mean it's kind of a rhetorical thing. I thought it was like a rule, but
I didn't realise anybody had gotten DRS from me, to be perfectly honest with you, but there we go.
Yeah.
So as it is then, that race then, you finish in third place. So what ends up being your takeaway from it, apart from you're sort of just sitting there and going, good DRS?
That's very good. Honestly, like it was a fun race. Like I can't really take much away from it. Like we felt quick the entire time. Qualifying wasn't the the best lap from me, to be honest. But it is what it is. We still got we got P4. We avoided the absolute chaos that was at turn 1 somehow. I had a very good view of that. But yeah, it's just the DRS thing's not ideal. It's not ideal, but it is what it is.
Well, it happened. It's a league about content, at least. It's not an actual serious racing league. So as long as we all had fun, as long as there was plenty of good stuff. And in terms of that, you have any good battles in the race? Anything good in that sense?
I could have had a good battle on the last lap, really. That, honestly, trying to go side by side with Carl in P1 would have been fun. But aside from that, no, like, we had Watts behind us, to be honest, and I think we kind of had the pace on it. And it's just like, I think Carl was very, very quick. Kai was very quick at the end as well. I don't know where he pulled that pace from. But yeah, I think Carl maybe ran like an interesting setup, and his tyres just kind of just died off at the end because he was so fast in quali and so fast at the start of the race, and then towards the end of the stint, he just kind of dropped off a bit. So yeah, there wasn't really that much, like fighting and overtaking. It's just kind of like maintaining gaps and kind of just playing out and seeing what strategy did, to be honest. But yeah, it would have been nice to get the win. It would have been nice to get the win. It's a shame that something outside of that kind of made it harder for me to get the win, but it is where it is. As you said, it's content.
There we go. It's content. And, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But yeah, thank you very much then, Jake. We'll let you go, and we'll get our next driver in. So, that next driver then, let's get them into the comm box now. So, we have got, joining us right this second, it is Carl, our latest winner in Creator Series. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really great. I had to work for that one. Jeez, really had to work
Absolutely. Let no one take anything away from you in that one, mate. That was a fantastic drive from the brief bits of it I saw, mostly as you were lapping me. But there we are. Talk us through how the race unfolded for you. Were you involved in all the chaos at the start?
Yes, I sort of caused it, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I went deep into turn 1, just completely hands up, that's my fault. Tried to leave space in turn 2, straighten out the car as much as I could. I ultimately think it was contact model, but it doesn't help anyway. I mean, Kareem got a free evening, I guess, but it's not ideal. So I mean, yeah, apologies to Kareem in any case, because it wasn't the ideal scenario. But from there, once the safety car came in, pace and clear air was great. Just DRS share with Kai, get away, ran my race from there, got the fresher hards. Once the safety car came out though, completely different ball game, a lot of sweat, but we made it happen.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, talk us through, so from a content creation perspective, we're all here creating stuff. We're trying to make things a bit more entertaining. So in terms of all of that, for you, as my lighting falls off the side, in terms of that for you, what sort of battles did you have throughout the field? How did that go from that more racing perspective?
Good battles with Kai initially. I mean, I know it was a lot of DRS swapping, but we were pretty equal on pace in terms of actual clear air pace. I'd say more so the last stint as opposed to the first stint. But yeah, once pit stops came along, I was able to begin carving through the traffic. Particularly when we got to Fabio, that was fun. That was good fun, because it was just basically do switchbacks everywhere. I switched back Kai into Tosa, tried it on Fabio, but he was defending for his life, which I don't blame him for. Meraki has also got a race to try and win, so fair play. But yeah, last one in particular, I was just full focus, because I had to be, because Jake's pace was cracked, for lack of a better adjective. He was absolutely rapid. It was a shame that we didn't kind of have just him with the RS, in a way. I don't think it was anything intentional, personally, but it's a shame. I would have enjoyed having that side-by-side just to see if I could have defended, but woulda, shoulda, coulda. Ultimately, had to keep it within the white lines. Did that, stayed ahead, and yeah, not a bad debut.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. A 100% win rate. I mean, you could retire now. Yes. You'd be the statistically most successful driver in Creator Series. So that
was my next announcement. I am officially retiring after this race.
Oh.
Into pole position, race win. I've got it all. It's fine.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, a world exclusive here on the Creator Series broadcast. Carl is out of here. He's not coming back. And if he tries, security will escort him out. So there you go.
No.
It's all been confirmed there. But of course not. Of course not. But yes, it's all been very, very good for you. Are you likely to pop yourself down as a reserve in the future, do you think? Or are you genuinely saying, no, we'll do that one and that's it?
I think yes, honestly, and I don't think it was for the sake of winning per se. When I came into this week, my main focus, which I told my live stream, I told myself all the way through yesterday and today, was rule number 1: just have fun. More than anything else, just go out there and have fun. If I get pole, it's a bonus. If I win, it's a bonus. Any kind of success that comes on top of that is a bonus. And ultimately, I had fun. So I think I've achieved my ultimate goal out of that. So yes, I think I will sign up again. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I got to race today. I know there's a lot of people that put their names down for it, and I was one of the very fortunate set of people that got to do it. And for that reason, I'm very grateful. So shout out to Creator Series. Love and appreciate you all.
Ah, there we go. It's a wholesome moment here on the broadcast. I have to immediately bring the tone down.
No.
Well, there we are then, Carl. It's, I mean, yes, it's been a very, very good day. Frankly, you only got the chance because there were other people not here. I mean, that's it. You don't need to be nice to everybody. Come on now. Let's be completely serious. Carl, of course, anybody who is familiar with our broadcast, you know Carl very, very well. If you're not, then, well, now you do. And yeah, great commentator, great presenter, and now, as it turns out, a great racer. Much better one than this Muppet sat here in this chair. But there we are. Thanks very much for coming in and chatting to us, Carl. Absolutely agree with you as well. 100% the right attitude for coming into Creator Series. We're here to have fun. That's the main thing. But yes,
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. We will speak to you another time. And a final person to grace the commentary booth. He's, of course, a driver who has been with the Creator Series for many, many, many a season, though in more recent times as a reserve. It is your 4th place driver after today, MSkyZ. SkyZ! That was a good race for you, wasn't it?
I would say eventful, eventful race. Started quite heavily with the big crash. I think I took out Karim suspension. The same way I took out the suspension from Ben last final in Las Vegas. I was, I think, 3 wide, and he was ahead of me. I couldn't dodge him. And after that, it was chaos all over the track. I was dead last after the first lap, dead last, with front wing damage, 10 seconds, everything. And from there, it went good. I managed to have a good race for once. So yeah, I feel great. I had a good battle with Fabio towards the end for the final 4th place. My strategy was quite alright. I managed to undercut everybody ahead of me. And after that, it was before the safety car. It was quite straightforward to the end with a 5th or 6th places at best. And then safety car happened. We got Guats spinning during the last laps. And it gave me the 4th place. I'm happy.
Good, as you should be. Yes, very, very impressive drive back through the field. How much of a help was the safety car?
The last one?
Yes,
I would
the last
say-
one. Not the first one. Not the first one. No.
The last one was helpful in a way because I had not great tires. I would have gone to the end easily, but with maximum 5th places after behind I think Lolly, no, maybe 6th even, with Lolly, Guats ahead of me, and then they both finished behind me. So that last safety car gave me 2 places. So it was helpful for once.
Absolutely. Yes, very, very good. But there we are. It's, I mean, it's been brilliant to have you back in. Is there any chance, maybe, in the future, we could see a return to a full-time SkyZ driving in Creator Series, or you just sticking to the reserves?
I would love to, but there are a lot of talented drivers that deserve to be on the grid full-time, so let's see. The wish is there, but we'll see if it can happen. The decision is not from me, so let's see. But usually driving as a reserve is already quite okay. But yeah, perhaps next season we'll see a Skyzy back. I don't know, but let's wish.
Let's wish. Let's wish indeed. I think that's a lovely note on which to end the interview. Let's wish for MSkyZ to return. But there we are then. Thank you very much, SkyZ. We will see you another time.
See you guys, and thanks for the race. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, here we are then. Let's take a look at your team standings. That is all that we'll be having a look at for this evening. And after that one, well, I'll be first to admit, I wasn't really contributing very much to McLaren's points total here today. 235 points, though, sees them still in the lead, ahead of Alpine, 230 through the combination of course, the now retired Tom, and then, of course, Razinchai, and then Matt 212 in this race as well. You've then got Red Bull that little bit further back, 223 points, Aston Martin, 220, now drawn level, of course, by Ferrari with that good result as well. In fifth position, then Mercedes, Haas, Racing Bull, Sauber, and Williams at the back. So, Joe, in terms of the constructors then, we've still got a lot to play for here. It's all still very, very close as we head into the last stages of the season.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly tight in, well, I'm sure the drivers, which will come out very, very soon. Not today, but very soon. But the teams, which is split by just 15 for the first 5 teams. And, well, Daniel, you can say at the end of the season, if McLaren do come out on top, you were a McLaren driver at some point this season. So, well, you can take that if they do come out on top. But there is incredibly fierce competition between those top 5. And that's certainly one to keep an eye on heading towards the end of the season.
Absolutely. I helped. That's a way you can maybe think about this. But there we are then. We've got our 2 Toms, our fantastic commentators of this evening, back in the lineup for us. And chaps, let's just have maybe just some final thoughts on that one, really. A one-sentence summary of that race. TK, we'll start with you.
Well, where do I start with that? Carl is mega quick. The race was a strategy game. Long live Imola.
Excellent. And Mr. Wilkinson, over to you.
Carl carried the commentary box.
Oh, I feel wounded. But there we go. That's a fair comment. In all fairness, Joe, let's round you off with what ends up your thoughts and feelings at the end of that one.
Carl was aura farming.
There we go. Awful lot of praise for Carl here today, and rightly so. On debut, he wins in the Creator Series around Imola in Season X. That is pretty much our show. Thank you very much for watching, whether you've been on Twitch, on YouTube, on TikTok, on that pigeon that we occasionally send out there with a screen that's attached underneath them. Whatever it is you've been watching Creator Series on, we thank you very much. We want you to follow everything, keep up to date with all that's going on, particularly over on the socials. And for everybody here, starting with TK, where can the good people find you?
Pretty much every single social media is out. They call me TK, sometimes with a little underscore in front, and I'll pass it across to Tom. Where can they check you out, my friend?
EW06 on Twitter and potentially Twitch, and then on TikTok and Instagram, wilco.darts or wilco.coms.
I'm also I am JB Comms now on most things, as hopefully at some point I'll make it into one of your 2 spots. I'm not insinuating I'm going to do anything to you, but maybe one week you might be potentially unavailable. Anyway, Dan, where can they find you as well?
Well, in terms of me, after that race, I'm sure that fans of a particular Ferrari driver are going to be searching for my address. So I will refrain from giving out anything on this occasion. But you never know. If you do want to find me occasionally on Instagram, it's at DA Gilligan. But there we go. Thank you very much to the whole commentary team. Thank you, of course, to Gareth Allen in the background as well. We love you very dearly, Gareth. And thank you to all of our drivers. It's been a very good Imola Grand Prix. And we will see you for the next round in F1 Creator Series.